What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace 109. I'll never do that again.
No, let's not do that again.
Right here on Sifted.net, we're going to run through all the big news in gaming for the week and have some fun in the process. A couple housekeeping things before we really get rolling with the show. Pactor Factor, we are shooting it tomorrow morning. It ended up being kind of a rush shoot because Pat contacted me, said he's leaving for Thanksgiving, something or other. He's not coming back for like 2 weeks. So we need questions for...
going.
Yeah, exactly. So we need questions for Pactor Factor. That, I have to be there at his place at like ungodly hours tomorrow. So get the questions into Pactor Factor.
Even though he just talked about how he likes being able to get up later. And
yeah, I know.
Work late, yeah.
I know, it's funny. But get questions in for Pactor Factor. There's promotion right on the homepage, right at the top there. Click on it, go to the message board thread. Alternately, you can reply to the tweets that we sent out about it, but we need them. We're shooting it early tomorrow, so please get those in. Secondly, Matt, I'm coming back with another Patreon Drive marathon stream.
Uh-oh.
Not 24 hours.
All right.
We're going to be doing a Black Friday Patreon Drive stream. The hard time is set for 12 hours. We'll see how I feel after the 12 hours, and I'll see if we have momentum.
Still having fun,
if I'm having fun and there's momentum, we'll keep rocking. But the plan right now is for a 12-hour live stream on Black Friday. I think Black Friday's a good day because everyone's just spending money like crazy on Black Friday. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a boost to our Patreon. The Patreon has gone down over the last, I don't know, like week or so. When everybody turned over for November, a lot of people bailed out. So we want to get those people back in and get some new people in. So we're going to be doing a live stream for that. But otherwise, this week, kind of the 1 week of the Q4 that's a little more quiet.
Yeah, because you gotta let Black Friday do itself. You can't be throwing stuff right out there and like suddenly it's just going to be on discount. No one's going to buy your thing because they're busy buying $300 4K TVs and Target's buy two get one free thing. There was a thing on GameStop last night. I don't know if you noticed where there was all these pricing errors if you had a Pro, like the Power
You tested me about that.
Yeah, like you could because the rewards were stacking weird, like the discounts were stacking weird. You could get Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 Remix for PS4 for free.
Wow.
Final Fantasy 15 for Xbox One was coming up as free. Horizon Zero Dawn was coming up as $9.99 instead of $34.99.
Wow.
Tons of like they were basically stacking a 15% off and a 20% off deal at the same time, I think. And it was just they were stacking, and instead of like being percentage-wise, they were just sort of doubling, and just they took the whole thing off. I did order Kingdom Hearts, another copy of Kingdom Hearts. So.
Do you think it'll ship?
Hasn't canceled yet. I mean, it says like that we'll cancel this at any moment for any reason. So they might.
There's disclaimers in there now.
But we'll see.
From prior screw-ups, basically.
But it was a quick little thing. But like, that's fun. It's a fun little Black Friday moment.
I think it goes back to what you were saying last week too, how people are scattering from Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And which is smart, because we've seen what happens when publishers try to go toe-to-toe with that game, and it's not pretty.
No,
it makes sense.
It's not selling what it used to, but it's still the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah.
Which is a mixed metaphor, but
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
One thing I will say before we get into the show is that we are not talking about Sonic Forces today. For whatever reason, in the back of my mind, I had assumed Matt would probably play it. But he looks at me like I'm crazy.
I take that as an insult. Like I'm not. I mean,
well, I think everybody knows at least you used to be a pretty big Sega fan.
I'm a Sega fan doesn't make me a Sonic fan.
It doesn't make you a masochist, right?
Right.
Reviews for it have not been good.
Before the show, like I played Mania, and before that, I think the last Sonic came about was Generations, and before that was Colors, and before that might have been Adventure 2. Like, I mean, I'm not I gave up on that I played 2006 and Unleashed and Black Knight and all those things on at the company copies at X-Play or whatever,
right.
But like I didn't buy them.
Yeah.
Like maybe I bought Unleashed for like $5 at some point years later, but like at launch, oh no, I got more entertainment out of reading the reviews of Sonic Forces than I would out of the game.
I should have known your intelligence would win out over your heart in this one.
That's the thing is I don't have a lot of heart for Sonic. I liked the first two games and I'm kind of good after that. And I like Sonic Adventure because it was just the first one because it was I got an import Dreamcast in '98 and it came out like right after the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I got the import Dreamcast for Christmas, and then I went to the import store in Burlingame, Network Video, and I got the import copy of Sonic Adventure. and I took it home, and I started to play it, and I got to that part with the tornado, and I just started laughing because I couldn't believe something looked that good. So, like, it has a nice memory. But if you really get down to it, did I have fun fishing for frogs? No, not really. It was, you know, and so it was one of those. Sonic Adventure games are those games that are kind of like, I wasn't ready to admit it yet, and like, once we got past Sonic Adventure and we hit like Sonic 2006,
well,
I was just like, I mean, you couldn't ignore that. You know? And like now you go back to, I mean, I gave Sonic Adventure 2 on the GameCube, I think like a 4 out of 5, or maybe it was on the Dreamcast, on a 4 out of 5 when it came out on extended play. It would have been then. And you go back to that now, and it's just like,
it's junk.
I mean, maybe not for the time, but it did not hold up.
I gave it a 6.8 at GameSpot, and you would have thought that the world ended.
I mean, that's almost a 7. That's pretty good for that game, really.
Well,
that's barely 1 point below what I gave it.
Well, what happened was Shahed Ahmed, one of my co-editors there, he had reviewed the Dreamcast version first, which he had given like I think it was like a 9.6.
Yeah, the Dreamcast version reviewed pretty well, but you were the GameCube one, Battle or whatever.
Yeah, and I gave it a 6.8, and oh my god, it was like the sky was falling. Sega
I feel like by the
time
me. That game hit the GameCube, you were being pretty accurate there.
Yeah.
I feel like games advanced a lot in terms of 3D control and platforming and camera in those few years.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking at like Super Mario 64 or something like that, or Banjo, the camera in that compared to the camera in the Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure still was not a good comparison.
Well, part of it is because you just don't have. The Sonic guys did more, so you use more buttons, so you couldn't use the buttons for the camera like in Mario.
Right.
And, I mean, even Super Mario
For the
Sunshine,
days of dual analog sticks.
Well, even Super Mario Sunshine has some camera problems.
It does, for sure.
You know, even though they had the little C-stick going on.
The C-nub.
C-nub.
But yeah, I mean, across the history of my career, that review is one of the ones that I got the most heat for, as far as fans just like coming at me. That was also when GameSpot was in like its heyday. Like,
well, it took a long time.
Like #1 by a mile.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of the premier review. I mean, people were just assuming this is the review everyone will see and go by because it's GameStop.
Oh yeah, we just had millions and millions of people reading each review, and it just got nasty. That and amped freestyle snowboarding for Xbox.
Oh, because you didn't like that.
I hated it. I hated it. And for some reason, Xbox comes onto the market and had some of the most rabid fanboys. Immediately.
I have no proof of this, but I always figured they were like the Saturn fans.
I don't know.
The Dreamcast.
It was totally
the Sega
perplexing.
fans jumping from like one lost cause to the next kind of thing. Although Microsoft actually turned out pretty well, but
that was one of those reviews where I actually got called into the office because of the feedback. Because other outlets had given
Amped?
it, yes, because other outlets had given it high scores, and I just thought it was complete garbage, like garbage. And I got called into Greg's office. He's like, "Oh, you know, your review's a lot lower than everybody else's, and we're getting emails from people that are angry about it." And he's like, "You know, I was hoping you could."
There's only one way to settle this: on the slopes.
No, I let him play it. And that game, like you could not even just carve down the hill.
Oh, yeah, it was very hard to play.
It was insane. And
I mean, I chalked that up to me not knowing how snowboarding works. But because the sports, and especially the action sports, extreme sports stuff. Like, if I didn't like one of those things, I never really said anything about it because I didn't know I don't know anything about skateboarding or snowboarding or anything like that beyond like what I learned playing Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
And so I would never be like, oh, I think wakeboarding Unleashed is a ridiculously simplistic simulation. It's like, no, I just like I don't really like this. I'm just gonna leave it alone.
Well, it was a big lesson for me too as a critic because. And maybe even it still exists, but they're kind of at that point where there's prevailing opinion that the more realistic you could make a 3D game, the better it was.
No, that was definitely a thing.
People were like striving, and critics were like, "Well, this isn't realistic." So this is, and
some of us were like, in Tony Hawk, you can grind like for days. Like there's there's nothing realistic about Tony Hawk. It's just fun to play.
And Amped, literally, it was realistic. And snowboarding is freaking hard. And the game was harder than actual real snowboarding. And I just didn't have any fun with it. So he called me in, he played it for a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, I get it. So you're totally fine." So
it had nice snow physics for the time, but like...
Yeah.
No, I played that for a game for like an hour, and I'm just like, I'm going back to Halo.
I think a lot of people were obsessed with just how good everything looked on Xbox.
Oh, yeah, it looked great.
And I think a lot of people let that cloud their judgment on whether the games were actually good or not to play.
There's something similar to that Sonic effect happening there, where like I think there's a lot of people that just, maybe to this day, have been waiting for 1080 on the N64 to be equaled, because I love that game.
That's a great game.
I don't even care about snowboarding, but I love that game.
The physics in that game were good. See, they were realistic enough. They were realistic so you felt like you were really carving and the edges reacted accurately to the snow, but it wasn't so realistic that it was maddening.
Right. You don't want it to be realistic. You just want it to be believable.
Yeah. In Amped, like, the tricks were, like, impossible to pull. I just hated it. So one of those lessons that I've learned throughout the years working in games journalism. But anyway, back from our non sequitur. Let's get on with the show.
We kind of did discuss Sonic Forces.
We did, actually, in a roundabout way, even though neither one of us have played it. So first, we're going to talk today about Need for Speed Payback. I've been playing this game for the last couple days.
That subtitle mostly references what you want the store to do.
No, that's funny. I was actually made that joke before you showed up. I was like, I think it's called Payback because that's what the store is going to have to do if you buy this game. They're going to have to pay you back for it. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the reviews out there. They're not wrong. They are accurate. This game is bad. Like, really bad.
I hovered around buying it the night before it came out because I'm like, do I want it? I mean, we'd probably talk about it. And I just sort of figured you would play this.
I did.
And I could handle, and I would play Horizon Frozen Wilds because that came out the same night, and that's like level 30 content that I knew you wouldn't be able to play. So I'm just like, I'm just going to let Shane handle
Thanks,
Need
Matt.
for Speed.
I appreciate that.
I made a command decision without letting you know there.
So, Need for Speed Payback, it's basic. Look, can you see the textures drawn in right there, by the way?
Yeah.
It's basically EA trying to make a Fast and Furious game. The plot is you're in this quote-unquote crew of drivers.
Is that why every male character looks like Brian from Fast and the Furious? Like Paul Walker?
I mean, it's a blatant attempt to completely rip off Fast and Furious.
That's really good aliasing on the 7 on the license plate.
Yeah, I mean, the graphics in this game have all kinds of problems. Like, textures pop in and out. The texture quality jumps all over the place. Sometimes you look at a car and the textures look like they're like 8-bit textures.
And just watching you play, it seems like there's a lot of solved issues that are issues in this game.
It's not polished by any stretch of the imagination, but it is plot driven. You're a part of this driving crew in basically what is a fictional Las Vegas. They don't call it Las Vegas, but that's exactly what it is. And you're a part of this driving crew that's really close knit. You're kind of underground. You do some stuff that's not really on the up and up, and right at the early part of the game, one of your crew members betrays you. It really screws you over. You're supposed to deliver a car to this guy. The car does not get delivered, so you're indebted to this guy. And I'm guessing the most expensive car in the world is what, like $2.5 million, $3 million? What's a Veyron?
It's up there.
Yeah, it's like
one of those like limited edition. We made 5 of them, Bugattis.
Yeah,
yeah.
And for whatever reason, because you don't deliver this car, you basically have like given your life to this like rich schmuck in Las Vegas. So you have to start working for him, and you end up driving for him and.
Was this like a crime thing or a legit delivery?
It was a legit delivery, yeah. I mean, there's shady elements among your crew. Like, people were saying, like, oh, we should just take the car and sell it and blah, blah, blah. So your crew isn't exactly like a bunch of upstanding citizens in the first place. So essentially, you fail to deliver the car, you're now indebted to this rich guy, and then you start getting mixed up in the world of underground street driving. And from there, it's pretty much like every other street racing game you've ever played. Here's your crew here. Of course, it's, nice and diverse, the perfect diversity. The game itself, so it is an open world driving.
How come every protagonist looks like they're related to Nathan Drake?
Oh, I know. It's just like the generic white guy, so to speak. So the game itself, it is technically an open world driving game. You have like the open Las Vegas that you can drive around in. There isn't a lot to do, though. It's not like, I guess maybe I should just start.
It's not like The Crew where there's like events everywhere or anything.
Or Forza Horizon. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the best way to describe this game is EA's attempt to make Forza Horizon. And unfortunately, because we have Forza Horizon 3 to compare it to, it fails miserably. But it's set up very much the same way. There's like signs that you have to break through. There are old abandoned cars that you can find and then fix up. The problem is every single element of Need for Speed Payback is done more poorly than they're done in Forza Horizon. So first, right off the bat, if you own an Xbox and you're interested in a street race, just go buy Forza Horizon 3 immediately. Don't even think about this game. The problem is you have PlayStation 4 owners out there.
Oh, that headlight's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, visually the game is not a looker. Unfortunately, the problem is you have PlayStation 4 owners out there who are looking for a really good street racing game and are hoping maybe this might be it. This is absolutely not it. A lot of the elements from prior Need for Speed games have been tweaked or changed. It is, yeah.
God, the frame rate.
Yep.
Like, how? How is that happening in a final release game?
I don't know. But that's...
I mean, there are other Need for Speeds that don't have this problem.
That's literally
is this Frostbite again?
It is, yeah. Couldn't you tell by the character models?
Yeah, you're right.
But trust me, the visuals in this game are the least of its problems. Like, the actual gameplay, for me, has been a complete disaster. Some of the first races, I had to try multiple times to get through because everything's just so random. There is traffic in all the races, so sometimes you just come around a turn and there's just a car in the lane and you hit it. I know some people will like that element of it. It became frustrating for me after I had retried a bunch of races in a row and you're finally in first place and you come around a turn and you just mash into somebody. The crash physics, crashes obviously have kind of become a big thing in the Need for Speed franchise. And
since they stopped making Burnout.
Right, and there are cop chases in this as well, although they don't really like patrol the open world and like see you doing something wrong and then come after you. It's all triggered by linear story sequences, essentially. And then so the cops chase you, and the crash physics in this game are a disaster. I had a cop come up to my right and literally, I mean, he didn't even hit me hard enough to scratch the paint on my car, and it literally just flew off the road and like shot into like a road sign. So the crash physics in it are crazy. Sometimes like competitors will come up on you and will just barely touch you and they'll just careen off the road and like smash into a wall. As you're seeing here, there are off-road and again, just like Forza Horizon, there are off-road and on-road elements. I will say one thing, that the car diversity is really good. Not as good as Horizon 3, but really good. There are tons and tons of different cars of all different disciplines, of all different eras. Like a little bit after this, you race in like a 240Z. And the handling characteristics are extremely different from one car to another. I can't say that I really feel like I like them all that much. One thing I've discovered is that a lot of times in a lot of racing games you use the brake around turns. In this game you really don't. Like you just...
Yeah, a lot of the reviews have said like you feather the brake on the hard stuff, but basically you're just holding the accelerator.
Yeah, and because it's funny too because, and this is a testament to how the handling in this game is, I cannot get a handle on whether I should just crank the stick all the way and it'll make the turn, or I need to brake and power slide around them. It has taken me forever to get a handle on it. And as the cars change and you get new cars, it just becomes even more challenging. Speaking of which, new cars are kind of hard to come by. Like I said earlier, you can find some like hidden out in hidden areas, like barn finds from Forza Horizon 3. That's in there. But as far as the cars that they give you for the game, is not especially generous. Typically, you get a new car as a part of the story sequence or whatever. What else? Let's see.
The reviews have said there's a lot of grinding in it. Is that
true? Yes, there is. So progression is really, really slow in this game. Like I was saying, like that's part and parcel with the cars. You don't get as many cars as you do in other games. And I think a big part of that is that they're trying to get you to spend money with microtransactions. And
so there's active predatory behavior.
Yep. Absolutely there is. Yeah, it is dirty. It's one of the dirtiest games I've seen this year as far as like, hey, we're going to throttle your progress in this game so that you start to get fed up with it and you start spending money on it instead. Which is a shock to me after all the backlash. It's not just recently, but this entire year, really. This has kind of been the year of like the loot box microtransaction backlash in a lot of ways.
But it's also because they started finally showing up in games we don't want to ignore. You know, like that's kind of what happened is like the core gamers have generally sort of ignored that sort of microtransaction loot box driven game because most of it was mobile or most of it was casual, and now it's in games that we want to play.
No, you're right.
And so now it's a problem. I think EA so far has proven to be the worst in terms.
Even though it's listened to,
it has listened for Battlefront 2, but the Battlefront 2 thing really feels more like, well, we didn't get away with that, rather than like kind of, you know, it feels like they tried, it didn't work, so they were ready to pull back if they want, but they sure wish it would have worked. You know, I think in terms of like impacting the actual game and how you play it and your experience as a player, I think EA seems to be the least the least pro-consumer in that. In an anti-consumer realm, I think EA is proving to be the worst so far.
Yeah, the other thing I should add about this game, too, is the multiplayer, instead of being embedded into the open world where maybe you can just cruise up to another player and just challenge them and go.
In many of the previous Need for Speed games.
Right. It's in a separate option in this game, and it's also locked away until you get to a certain place in the campaign. It won't even let you play multiplayer. So I have a litany of issues with this game. I have not particularly enjoyed my time playing it. However, we are going to play it live here for a little bit. And look, we've listened to you guys. We heard your cries after last week's episode about the playview being too long. And I think what's happened is that
we don't realize how long
you don't. You completely lose your sense of time.
We came out of the show last week, and we're like, and Sam's like, Call of Duty was 40 minutes, guys.
Yeah. So we apologize for that. We have instructed Sam to give us a heads up this time to make sure we do not play the game live as long as we had. I thought the first week was okay, maybe a little long. Last week was entirely too long. So we are keeping an eye on it, and thank you for your feedback.
I think there was some feedback that was like you should use the playview to pick an area of the game that we want to highlight or talk about and stuff. And I think going forward, that's a good choice. And
look, it is a new feature of the show. We're still going through some growing pains, but I like what it brings to the show. I like being able to demo a game live to you guys. But I agree with you. We do need to have a little more brevity with it, I think. So thank you for your feedback. We are always listening to you guys when you give us suggestions about the show. And the best part is that our people deliver the feedback in a positive way. They're not negative. They're not hateful and angry. So that helps.
They're very constructive write-ups.
Yep. So love it. Keep it coming. But we are going to do another playview, a very short one. I just want to kind of show you guys how the open world works and kind of how the game works. We're not going to take that long with it. So bring it up, Sam. So here's the open world. This is still pretty early into the game, and I'll bring up the map here really quickly, but you can see how huge the map is.
Yeah, that's a lot of room to do stuff I don't want to do.
Right, and one thing I would say is it is kind of too big. Like, you get out into these more disparate areas out in the suburbs, so to speak, and there's really nothing there and nothing to do, and because it is Las Vegas, the terrain is extremely boring.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're hitting a point where some, game publishers just want you to pull the map up for the first time and be like, "Oh my God, it's so big!" Like regardless of whether
there's something to do in it. Yeah. Sure, why not? They can just cut and paste the textures and the terrain and make it big. So, like in most games that have a map like this, you can set your waypoint and it'll set up a.
I think you're stuck in a story thing here because they want you to go home.
Oh, they're jibber jabbering. Okay, so you can see down in the bottom left there's a map. And it'll give you kind of a waypoint where you need to go. And the early part of this game, too, I would say, is extremely linear. You really don't have much choice in the missions that you choose or where you go or what you do. And part of that I can understand because they're trying to set up the story and they want you to get involved with the characters, but they fail miserably. And that's because the characters are just like pieces of cardboard with no real pizzazz to them whatsoever. So,
I mean, the characters, and even in the Fast and the Furious movies, took multiple movies to become characters. This is a hard premise to sell without like some real good ideas to back it up, and I'm not seeing that in. I mean, I'm not seeing that Need for Speed in general these days, but this doesn't seem to have anything to offer in that regard.
So you have a home base because you owe so much money to the rich guy in Vegas. You're dirt poor. You can't afford to pay your rent, and the guy's a jerk to you because he basically has you by the gonads. And they blew it up.
Blew your house up. He's fine.
Yeah. Why would they even bother blowing up a house like that in Las Vegas? Is worth about $40,000.
I don't know. It's like at that point you're like, aren't you just spending more money, throwing good money after bad? You've already lost how much?
Yeah.
Oh, and also you always want to do your hardcore illegal activities in the most distinctive imaginable sports car.
Yeah, exactly. In your $500,000, whatever that was. I couldn't even tell what it was. But, so you do have like a home base, although you don't have it anymore now. Cause it's just been exploded.
Now I guess I bet you'll work out of a warehouse with a bunch of wacky characters, and you'll wear that shirt for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
It's a good thing Nathan Drake let you borrow it.
And I will say that shirt is the most rebellious thing about the game.
Oh, yeah.
I like how they have to tell you.
Rebel.
He shouldn't have to tell you he's a rebel. You should just learn that by playing the
maybe
game.
If they make a sequel, maybe he'll tattoo it on his forehead like the Joker in Suicide Squad.
This is an arcade racing game. So the controls are really simple. You have a gas, you have a brake, you have a handbrake, and then you have turbo. And if we get back to the game here, I'll show you. There's like a turbo meter is kind of the inside ring on the HUD at the bottom right of the screen. So, as you can see, like I said, extremely story-driven. There's lots of cutscenes. None of them are good. So
is it
the writing's poor?
In terms of story-driven, integrated, written better, compare it to The Run, which is probably the last seriously story-driven one they did.
I'd say it's a little better than that. But I mean, The Run is
bottom of the barrel.
It is so bad. I mean, this is a little better. There's not much tension in it, but it's written a little better, and maybe the characters are a little more likable.
A little more focus tested in the script department.
Maybe. It's still bad, though. So I have to drift here, and basically, you just hit your handbrake to drift. Unfortunately, I completely spun around.
Good drift!
Oh, good drift! That's freaking great. I have not done a ton of drifting in this game, so I'm sure this is going to go poorly, but they seem to like it anyway, which I guess is all that matters.
You triggered the drift flag, I guess, which is all you need. It's also it's weird. Maybe maybe you don't want it in every racing game, but just looking at this where you're hitting the street signs there, I miss the the points that pop up in Horizon and stuff like that.
They should take the word "good" out of that and just say "perform 3 drifts."
Yeah,
because obviously those were not good drifts.
Yeah, you turn the car sideways slightly. That's about all you can really say.
Yeah.
There.
The other thing too is the game will kind of I'm not using the handbrake there.
Better.
It's just drifting all on its own. So.
Yeah, you're just turning hard.
Yeah. It's like I said, you don't have to be precise with your braking in this game. It's really just all analog stick to get around the turns. Like I said, I was drifting right there without even using a brake at all, just by turning really tight and gassing it. So
now I guess they're going to make you race?
I'm guessing. Hopefully I don't have to do drift competitions. Drift competitions are probably my least favorite thing in driving games. In fact, even in Forza Horizon 3, I just skip them.
I do them, but I tend to win them without real understanding why I won them.
Yeah, I just end up basically doing figure eights and spinning around in circles.
Yeah, because when you watch real drifting, it feels like a very measured and calculated, skill-driven thing. And when I do it in a game, it's just sideways as long as I can. Look at the multiplier, yay! There's no. I mean, I guess you want it to be like that because you can't expect someone to master a complex, physics-based art that's totally separate from racing, standard racing.
One thing I'll say too is that it appears that you get a slight speed boost after you drift, which I don't really think makes much sense, but it is an arcade racer.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's the blue sparks kind of thing, I guess.
From Mario Kart.
Yeah. If you do a cool thing, you go faster. I mean, it's like in Fast and the Furious, where as long as
this car is so squirrely.
As long as they're in the car, they're invincible.
Right.
It's like Iron Man. As long as they're in the armor, as long as you're in the car, you're invincible. And you get 10 seconds of invincible after the car. You leave the car, which is how Vin Diesel jumps out of the car and grabs Michelle Rodriguez and lands on the far side of the freeway on someone's windshield and doesn't die. So that's my theory, is that they're actually superhumans whose powers are tied to their cars.
Well, this is perfect because now I have a drift challenge. And I know I'm not going to complete it, so this will force us to stop playing Need for Speed Payback. Yeah. This car is so squirrely.
Yeah, well, it's drift tuned, so it's supposed to be.
It's I barely tap the stick, and it just completely goes sideways. Here we go. There's an opportunity for a drift.
Except, I guess you still get the points.
I guarantee I'm not going to hit this target. And like I said, these are my least favorite events in every arcade racing game.
Yeah, you'd have to go down to 1, multiple. I don't know, if you pull a couple of good ones off here, you might actually make it.
Really?
This is not a crazy high target they've got you on here.
That's good.
You're already almost halfway to it.
Yeah, but how much more road do I have to get there?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you got 800 yards. Make this next turn count. Yeah. 5,000 more.
I don't even know how the points are tallied.
Loosely.
I didn't do it.
You got close, though.
Yeah. All right, we'll call it
Tiger selfie. What? What does that mean?
I have no idea what that means.
Is that like a type of, or is that the guy you race?
I think Wait, this whole thing kind of started with that guy taking a selfie, right? Remember in the cutscene?
Oh, so it's like a tiger blood thing, like a Charlie Sheen reference. I don't know. I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't either. But I do not recommend buying this game.
No, it sounds like if you really, either get Forza Horizon or wait for The Crew 2.
Yeah, I guess the question everyone's going to be asking is, well, okay, that's fine if you have an Xbox, but what do I do if I have a PlayStation 4?
Sounds like wait for The Crew 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe get the Need for Speed from a couple of games ago. I can't remember which one it was.
Because the Need for Speed from 2 years ago wasn't good either.
No, but there was one from like 2013 or 2014, maybe the end of 2013, where like it was like a maybe it was Most Wanted. I don't know, but it was an open world. There were cops running around. It was mingle player. You could play with other people in the same map and sort of join up with them and drive around and do stuff. And it was pretty. It was not amazing, but it was fun. It was a fine iteration of the Need for Speed open world concept, and you could probably get. I can't remember what. I think it was Most Wanted, but it might have been called something else. But like,
it is crazy.
It was like it was the first Need for Speed on Xbox One and PS4. It came out around launch, so I enjoyed that well enough that I feel like the $5 or so you'd pay for it now would probably be more fun than this.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy to think, though, we're this far into the PlayStation 4's lifespan, and we cannot think of a great arcade racer right off the top of our heads. I mean, at this point, we should be able to come up with at least a couple.
Well, I can, but they're like 14 years old.
No, I'm saying like a PS4 game.
Right now, no.
Yeah.
Really Drive Club, kind of. Drive Club's a lot better than it used to be.
It still kind of strays a little towards Simmy, though, I think.
A little bit, but you can turn enough stuff on that you're basically just... you're not going to be able to turn without breaking, but like... it's pretty conducive to letting you play. It's not. It's a little more simmy than Forza Horizon, but I feel like you don't have to super focus on it. But it's not open world, really. It's not. Yeah. It's just more really pretty.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just kind of doing individual races over and over again. It's not like if you want something where you wander and everything kind of unfolds organically. There isn't really a good option for that on PS4 unless you go back to whatever that Need for Speed I'm thinking of, which is it Most Wanted? I can't remember what it is.
Wasn't there one called Need for Speed?
Rivals. That's what it's called.
Need
for Speed Rivals. Thank you, Wolf Ox 10JC. Need for Speed Rivals was probably the one I had the most fun with in recent memory in terms of this series.
And does that work for backwards compatibility on...
Oh, no, it's for PS4.
Oh, it is?
I played on Xbox One, so I assume there's a PS4 version.
That must have come out like right away.
I think it was a launch title or a launch window title. It was right there. It was it was tail end of 2013.
It's crazy. Despite the PS4's library is great. Like it's really starting to fill out now with more niche stuff as well. But there's still not a great arcade racer. There's nothing up to the standards of Forza Horizon 3.
Arcade racers just don't really happen anymore. I don't know why.
I honestly think if EA just remastered or remade Need for Speed Underground,
man,
there'd be a lot more.
I would buy an HD collection of the original Need for Speeds in a heartbeat. Especially Need for Speed 3, which PS1, the original Hot Pursuit, still great track design in that. Yeah. Really cool. Also amazing on PC, was very heavily moddable. Porsche Unleashed, which was the follow-up to that, I think it was like an expansion pack. People modded that thing into, you wouldn't believe, every car you could imagine, different. It was incredible. Those first 4 games in the series back in the 90s were they were the ones to beat. If you weren't playing Gran Turismo, you were playing those. Yeah. And I missed that kind of. There was a fantastical element to those, with it, the Atlantica track, and kind of everything was very heightened. And because the graphics weren't it were PS1 graphics, it wasn't amazing. So it was very heightened, and everything was colorful and had a theme around it that was very easily identifiable visually. And they've never matched those games in terms of just sheer imagination.
I think what's crazy is how poor the cop chases are in this.
Yeah.
And I think back to how awesome they've been in prior games. It's with the new technology, they should be better than ever.
They should, yeah.
And they've been neutered, and then the physics for them are just completely...
Criterion really showed them how to do that in the modern day with the Hot Pursuit in 2010, and I think they did Most Wanted after that. And they were solid, but
I should also mention I've had game crashing bugs. Not game crashing; the game didn't crash, but mission-ending bugs. There was one time where the cops were in the mission, and the camera went to show me where the cops were as I drove past them, and the camera never left the cops, and I was forced to try to finish the mission looking backwards from my car. Like, there's just all kinds of little bugs in the graphics. Like, the textures pop in and out. It's
so pretty solid thumbs down.
Very solid thumbs down. Yeah, do not buy this game. Like I said earlier, if you do, GameStop is going to be paying you back for it. So, big pass on Need for Speed this time. And who knows what's going to happen with the future of the franchise at this point.
Apparently, like, they're just going to keep making them.
Ghost Games just has a free pass, I guess.
Well, the series, I mean, almost any other series that underperforms even once, EA like throws it in the vault and we never see it again. But they really want fetch to happen with this Need for Speed thing. Like they're gonna. I mean, maybe the licenses with the car companies are lucrative, whether the game is successful or not.
Or maybe they have deals with the car manufacturers that go for the next 3 or 4 years.
That's certainly why we've gotten
and
they're like, other
man,
licensed games.
We're already on the hook for X millions of dollars with these car manufacturers. Yeah. We might as well try to recoup our investment.
I'll tell you that's why the only reason we got Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 games for those movies from Activision. They had a contract to finish.
Yeah. That's also why you see Activision's games eventually disappearing off services like Steam.
Right.
Because those licenses expire. And then they're like, whoop, can't sell these anymore. And they just off they go.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about probably the biggest news story of the week. Just broke. Was this yesterday? Mm-hmm. The days are just bleeding together for me at this point. So yesterday it was announced that Electronic Arts has purchased Respawn Entertainment. Are you surprised by this at all, Matt?
No.
You're not?
In fact, I don't know if I did on the show or not, but I called this like 8-9 months ago.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that you thought that was going to happen. But then after Titanfall 2, I was like, I don't know if they will now.
I called this after Titanfall 2. I think this is a result of Titanfall 2.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
In the sense that Titanfall 2 didn't sell enough to keep the company fluid, and so the only recourse is to sell it off or shut it down. I think EA wants to keep it running so they can get the Star Wars game out they're working on with Stig Asmussen. And once that's done, I figure they'll take it out back and shoot it in the head like they've done with all their other companies.
Is that what you think is going to happen? You think EA is going to kill Respawn after it gets this Star Wars run?
I think it's a distinct possibility.
But I also think it's a distinct possibility that Respawn's Star Wars game is frickin' amazing.
True.
Because here's the thing. Respawn has made 2 really good games.
Yeah.
They have not done well financially. I think maybe the first Titanfall did a little better than Titanfall 2.
First one did fine.
And Titanfall 2 did okay.
Yeah, it just didn't. It was sandwiched between Battlefield and Call of Duty, and was kind of roundly ignored.
And it still has an active community. It was in a bad
year. It was everything was down last year.
And it still has an active community. There are still tens of thousands of people playing it every day.
I would say, the best shooter campaign of its year.
I'd agree, by a wide margin.
Yeah.
Especially after playing Call of Duty World War II.
And the thing is, they kept a lot of that under wraps. Like, if you don't know what happens in the Titanfall 2 campaign, like, you have no idea what happens in the I mean, there's some crazy stuff in there. There's some real clever things in the tail end of that campaign that they never hinted at would be in there. So if you haven't played Titanfall 2's campaign, maybe if it's on EA Access or whatever, do it.
Oh, I highly recommend it. I mean, it wasn't even just
it's only like 4 hours.
Yeah, so and it wasn't even just a good shooter campaign. It was just a good campaign, period. And that doesn't surprise me with the pedigree of Respawn coming from.
No, and it was great to see them back again, because I always liked. I love. Even when Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare have their detractors in terms of the campaign, but I really liked them, and I think I don't know who determines the pacing and the way everything kind of fits together in their campaigns over there, but it feels like Titanfall 2 feels like whoever the same people were that were kind of dealing with that in the Modern Warfare games.
They made the best Call of Duty campaigns.
And just the way they know how to make them rise and fall and go crazy and breathe, and they're very good at that. It really feels good to be in their hands when you play this campaign.
So look, from a skill standpoint, a quality standpoint, I totally get why EA purchased Respawn. Mm-hmm. And now, I hadn't thought about it, but you're right, with the whole Star Wars angle, and obviously we were talking earlier about licenses that you spent a ton of money to acquire.
Let's not forget, I mean, next week, EA's had that Star Wars license since, 2013? Next week they will put their second game out.
On the heels of essentially canceling one.
Canceling one. And the second game is a sequel to the first one. Like, they haven't gotten any output done here.
No, you're right. And it's been quite a while. Like, by now, they should have had at least one of those Splinter games at least coming in March of this year.
I mean, they made 3 movies in the same amount of time.
What does that say for the movies?
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for this one, though.
The fact that they're giving Rian Johnson his own trilogy on the strength of how they feel about what he just made for them makes me feel pretty good.
It does, yeah. I'm pretty excited about that. So, anyway, back to games. I have a problem thinking that EA would have plans to close Respawn after it finishes the Star Wars game, considering how much money it spent on Respawn, because it wasn't a small purchase.
Oh, no.
Vince, once again, is a very rich man. That guy, man, he's worth a lot of money, man.
Now he is, yeah.
He got paid out for all those Call of Duty games from Activision. Remember they went to court? Didn't he get $140 million or something from that judgment?
I don't know if he got that all himself.
And him and the other guy split it, I think, though. He is extremely rich.
He's doing fine.
Yeah.
And now,
congratulations. He makes great games. He totally deserves it. So.
And now, the total on this one comes around $455 million.
Yep.
So.
And I'm sure he gets at least a quarter of that.
He gets a chunk, yeah.
So that's another $100 million to toss into the bank for him. I'm surprised he does anything at all. Maybe he'll just quit.
I would not necessarily be surprised if he semi-retired after this. I mean, I don't feel like he has anything else to prove.
He really doesn't. Really.
But of course, in acquisitions like this, usually there is some kind of the original people have to stick around for a while.
And also on the flip side of that, sometimes you don't have a choice.
Right.
Well, sometimes it could be a case where EA.
Well, they're buying a company. You also want the people that make the company what it is. You want Vince continuing to lead these projects.
Do you?
Yeah.
Or do they install somebody in there in his place? And
put it this way, if they install someone in his place immediately, I feel like the shutdown idea is even more prevalent.
No, I would agree with that for sure. But look, I'm excited at the idea of Respawn creating a Star Wars game, because I look at Respawn in the same vein as I've looked at Guerrilla. Guerrilla was kind of this developer that had always created first-person shooters. Nobody had any faith that it could do anything else, and along comes Horizon Zero Dawn. So I have a lot of faith.
These guys have pulled in the guy who gave us some really good God of Wars.
Yep, Stig.
To do this, and so that says to me that they're serious about kind of branching out beyond their expertise.
Granted, that didn't work out so well with EA with Amy Hennig, who they brought in. Not that we know it was her fault or anyone else's fault.
No, but it's just, it sounds like nobody knew what they wanted out of that project.
But ultimately, when you look at that template for EA, it has not worked so far. Hey, let's bring in this all-star developer who's worked in this genre and been really successful at it, and have him work on this game. Ultimately, that game ended up being canceled, or at the very least completely reworked. So we'll see how it works out with Stig. Stig, obviously, God of War fame. I'm not sure. I don't think that he worked that much on the early God of War, as he kind of came in later.
Yeah, he was, I think 3 was his big...
that was his baby, yeah. So it's not like they brought in David Jaffe or Cory Barlog. Stig was kind of a guy who only worked on God of War for a limited amount of time. Although Stig, his track record stretches beyond
look, you give me a Star Wars sequence on the level of the opening to God of War 3, I'm on board.
But I'm just wondering if EA is going to allow that to happen at this point, based upon what it did with Amy Hennig's game. Basically what EA said was, this isn't a games as a service game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, its long-term revenue-driving prospects.
Right, but also I think we just don't know enough about the internal politics of what happened there. Who knows? Yeah. It's been forever since we heard about that game. It's been in what would probably be considered development hell for years.
Yeah.
And at some point, you just got to admit that this ain't going to happen. You spent $200 million on this already, and we have nothing to show for it. So instead of throwing money down that hole further, we're going to do something we know will work. So part of the reason they might be shifting it to kind of the games as service idea, while that is obviously something EA is into in general, one of the reasons they might be shifting that specific project to that model is because they think that if they do that, they'll make more money, enough money off of it to help offset the cost of the first round of attempts.
Yeah.
So maybe they aren't dedicated to all of them being like that. Maybe they'd be willing to do like a God of War style thing with multiplayer or something out of these guys. Because I feel if you're gonna have Respawn make something, there's multiplayer. One way or the other.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Which is what EA is gonna want.
Right, and because that's where I could see them doing kind of a God of a Mass Effect style here's a campaign, but also here's like a co-op multiplayer thing where you pay for loot box kind of weaponry and stuff, and everybody it's not competitive, but everybody teams up and shoots stormtroopers for days. Kind of thing. That has done well for them in Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect Andromeda. Well, nothing did well for them in Mass Effect Andromeda, but it's also a proven model for squeezing more money out of us after the fact.
Didn't Respawn also announce that another Titanfall's coming?
I don't remember. I don't know if they announced its specific coming, but I think they basically said it's not over.
Yeah.
Which and EA's basically said we will. What was the thing that they said? We will support the future projects and the franchises. They did a bunch of business speak, and then Vince said, "Yeah, whatever the fuck that means."
Yeah.
Because Vince is a man who doesn't mince his words.
He does not, and that's one thing I admire about him. It's one of the reasons I like talking to him as well, because he's one of the rare. Industry, I don't know if I'd call him a luminary at this point. He's getting there. That is not 100% guarded, and he just tells it like it is.
Yeah,
he'll do interviews and he'll swear.
Oh yeah. Well, I ran into him at E3 and I said, hey, I thought Titanfall, just so you know, because I've known him for 10 years.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
and, and I just said, hey, for what it's worth, I thought Titanfall 2's campaign was one of the best things I've played all year. It was, it was fantastic. He's like, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, and he would know, without a doubt, even though obviously he has a biased opinion.
Yeah.
I think the best news for me in all of this, though, is that I really was wondering if Respawn was going to survive. Mm-hmm. Neither of its first games sold crazy well, probably well enough to tread water or whatever. These games are expensive to make. But now we know that they're going to stick around at least for one more game, and I'm guessing probably more. So that part to me is encouraging.
It would seem a shame to waste this collection of talent that they have just on getting Star Wars out and calling it a day. But at the same time, you could say that about so many other companies that EA has acquired and given one shot and let them die in the back.
Which makes no sense to me whatsoever from a financial perspective, but EA's done great financially, although this last quarter it was one of the only publishers to not do extremely well.
In part because they're not putting anything out.
But if you've owned EA stock over the last few years, you've done very well for yourself. So it's hard to argue with EA's success. Now I want to shift gears on this topic to something that really pisses me off. And that is that, so probably the second biggest news story, at least in my opinion this week, was that Phil Spencer came out and said, hey, we get it. Our first-party offerings aren't good enough. There aren't enough of them. We are focusing on creating more first-party exclusive content for Xbox platforms. Great.
Good.
Excited. Finally.
Please inform your fans that we were right.
Yeah. We have been banging that drum on GameFace literally since the show launched, I think, about how it's just been that same cycle of 3 games over and over. Halo, Gears, Forza, Halo, Gears,
Forza. Even when it was you and Marcus.
Right. And then for a while, Fable was there, and now it's gone, too. So it's really gone down to those 3 franchises that are just getting cycled over and over. And so Phil Spencer comes out and says, hey, we finally get it. We are going to start working on our first-party offerings. And then what happens the very next day? EA buys Respawn, which just shows you. Respawn was sitting there for the taking.
Well, no, they weren't.
Well, what do you mean?
EA had first acquisition refusal.
Oh, but they could refuse it. Microsoft could offer more money. They could.
Well, no, Microsoft can't. EA by contract, as I understand it, has to be given. They get the choice to buy it or don't buy it.
And
they decided to buy it. So Microsoft
they decided to buy
it.
But I'm guessing, and it should be in that contract that they signed, that other entities should have the ability to bid on the purchase, but then EA would have the first right to match.
I'm pretty sure that's not how that works.
It has to be.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Because if it doesn't work that way,
it varies by contract. But part of it is if you get first refusal, and they can basically say we'll offer you this, and the company can take it or not. And
I don't think that's how it works. I mean, if you look at contracts, at least in sports, that's not how they work.
Well,
it gives you the first opportunity. Basically, how it works in sports is a business, a huge business, $8 billion business.
Right, but this isn't sports. I'm saying in terms of company acquisition, I don't think you have to allow a bidding war to happen in this situation.
I think you absolutely do, because otherwise EA can just lowball and just say, well, here's $100 million, take it or leave it, and then Respawn is stuck sitting there forever saying, well, wait, there's no way we sell our company for $100 million.
No, that's not take it or leave forever. It's like they're not stuck there forever. They can just be like, no, we're not going to do that. and then it goes to somebody else. But if EA wants to buy it and they're buying it at a fair price, they get to buy it. Like, that's the point.
No, I get that, but that doesn't add up, though. It's like...
But that is how that works, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it is.
I'm we'll
figure it out. We'll figure it out beforehand. But Microsoft, I fully believe Microsoft could have had an opportunity to come in there and bid higher, and then EA would have the chance to match it every time. And if Microsoft bumps it up, EA could match it again. Microsoft bumps it up until it gets to a point where Microsoft offers more than EA would want to pay.
I am 99.99% sure that can't happen. That Microsoft literally had no opportunity to make an offer.
Well, I do know for a fact that's exactly what happened with Rare when Microsoft bought Rare. Nintendo had the opportunity to come and match, and Nintendo said no, and then Microsoft took them.
But
typically that is how it works.
But they didn't have. I don't think they had that contract of first refusal with Nintendo.
I'm guessing they did.
I don't think they did.
I mean, they were a second-party developer for Nintendo for decades.
Also, remember, like the fact was, Nintendo didn't care. You know, if EA didn't care, they could have just been like, "No, go sell yourself somewhere else," and they could have gone. I mean, presumably Microsoft would have been their next stop, but I'm pretty sure the advantage, because EA is the one fronting all the money in this for this situation
for
Titanfall. So the fact that the advantage to them in that contract is that they get to make an offer without having to worry about other companies coming in and driving the price up. They can say, this is what we think is a fair price for this company. We will buy it for this much, yes or no. And if they say no,
but if you were Vince, why would you ever do that deal? Because that means that you're never going to be able to sell your company. Because EA could always lowball you, and then you're stuck not being able to sell it.
Then you just refuse their offer.
Right. But then
that's it.
Then you can sell to somebody else?
Then you could sell to somebody else.
Oh. Okay, well, that's completely missing your argument then.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's fine. That makes sense.
You're not locked into selling it to them, but they have first...
That's what I thought you were saying.
No, they have first refusal, which means if they don't want to buy it, they say no, and then you can go sell it to somebody else. Or if they aren't going to buy it for the amount of money that you think is fair, you can get out of it. But clearly they thought $455 million is a pretty good price.
For sure. But that was my point, is like they could have turned EA down and then got a better offer from Microsoft. And Microsoft could have went to them and said, look, we'll give you way more than $400 million. Don't accept that deal.
Oh, in theory, but there's two things there. First, if you're offered $455 million, take the $455 million.
Yeah, sure.
Second,
I mean, look, EA offered them a fair price.
I don't know what the contract is, but I don't know if it's legal for Microsoft to come to them and say that.
No, it totally isn't. I don't think it is at all. But I don't think that matters either.
Well, yeah, you got a point there. But
all it takes is one dinner with some martinis.
At the same time, if I'm Vince, I'm doing this one on the up and up.
Yeah.
We've been through that already.
$400 million or
whatever. Also, we've been through that already.
Yeah, I've already been to court trying to get my money. Yeah. But to me, this was a huge missed opportunity for Microsoft. Even if you want to go back to when the studio was being formed and creating, by the way, an Xbox exclusive. I mean, Titanfall was exclusive to Xbox at the beginning.
They weren't. Microsoft wasn't. Their head wasn't in that place then.
It should have been, though. Because we were talking about it back then.
I mean, yeah, we knew.
How did we know?
Because
that's not even our job.
Because
we're not supposed to be good at that.
Because the Xbox One project wasn't being run by game people.
Yeah.
It was being run by, set-top box making a deal with ESPN, gonna be the hub of the living room people.
But that wasn't our argument. Our argument was there are not enough first-party games on Xbox.
Right.
Because that had started happening at the end of the 360 era.
But that came as a result of Don Matrick's policies basically being to dismantle their second-party setup. They had an amazing lineup of developers that even if they weren't exclusive, they were it was like Call of Duty. You used to have the Xbox first thing, where you got now that's on PlayStation 4.
Yep.
And there was just that point where Matrick came in and decided that was not a priority for them anymore, and all drifted away. And now they got to rebuild it. I mean, I think you and I have said many times, and I think we would agree that they have not done that quickly enough.
Oh yeah.
Like this process, should have started 4 years ago.
Well, it's been crazy if you've been watching during this launch week. By the way, you were absolutely right about the launch date for Xbox One X. I don't know why I thought it was last Friday.
I don't know.
But if you've been watching this last week, watching them re-promote Halo 5. I mean, hardcore. They put out like 6 trailers for the enhanced version of Halo 5 over the last 2 weeks. And I will say this. Have you checked it out?
What?
The enhanced version of Halo 5?
No.
It looks amazing.
There's a lot of stuff that looks good on the enhanced. I mean, I'm impressed by a lot of their enhancement
so am I.
support.
Yeah, I mean, Gears 4, we saw that at E3, and it looked amazing then. It looks even better now and more polished than it was there.
What was it? Oh, Skate. I mean, Skate 3 has some performance problems, but the fact that they even supported that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that, yeah. And that's one thing I do love
Maybe
about
they're testing
Microsoft.
the waters a little bit there.
Yeah. But that's one thing I do love about Microsoft is they do little stuff like that, even if it's for just like this niche group of fans.
I admit I'm a little tempted to get it just for the performance boost and the. The fact that I could play Crimson Skies again, looking good. Like I'm into that, and the fact that it makes the 360 stuff run a little better, like that's a really important thing to me. Like that, I think
it's important to a lot of people.
It ain't $500 important right now for me, but that's the issue. It's like I got my eye on it, and I might not have otherwise. You know
but anyway, what I was getting at is all the time that they've been spending enhancing, because this isn't just like flip a switch and it works like that, and it looks like that. They put work into this. All of Microsoft's first-party studios have been working on enhanced versions of these games instead of working on new games. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder if it's just too little, too late at this point. It's like, now in November of 2017, you say, hey, we're going to put more resources towards these first-party games. When does that actually bear fruit, Matt?
2 years from now?
Right. Will Xbox One X even be a thing by the time that bears fruit?
It'll be the old thing.
Right.
It'll be like, it'll be like what the S is now.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a new version out.
Yeah.
The Y or something. I don't know. Y indeed.
It's just baffling to me. Like, I don't see how they couldn't have looked down their release schedule and been like, wow, that's really barren.
I don't know.
I mean, their revenue this last quarter was terrible.
I understand where the situation arose and the kind of the scenario where Matrix policies led them down this road, but I don't understand why it took so long to correct that.
Yep. I don't either.
Like, I don't know what their plan was, like maybe from 2015 on. I feel around that time, which is when this show started, early 2015, I feel it was pretty obvious at that point.
Yeah.
Even before they killed Fable Legends.
Yep, for sure. And then you look at like the cancellation of Scalebound, which was on record, due to technical limitations. Well, here's Xbox One X.
Here's your limitation.
Shove that code on there. At the very least, that code's going to run now at like 60 frames a second. That would be a great stopgap. The game wasn't... I don't know what Microsoft is doing over there, and I get that it cares more about how many people subscribe to Xbox Live every month than how much software it sells. I get all that. In fact, someone asked a great question about that on Ask Shane Anything. Second episode up this morning, by the way, for those of you who haven't watched it. But someone asked a great question. It's like, so I get that Microsoft cares mostly about people subscribing to Xbox Live, but with Play Anywhere, what happens with everybody's going to just start buying everything off of Steam? And so you lose that cut of every third-party game that's sold because everyone's buying it off of Steam now. Yep. So, my answer to that was, spoiler, if you haven't watched the show yet, was that essentially, they won't be able to play those games online, though, unless they subscribe to Xbox Live. And that's kind of where Microsoft has you by the cojones is, if you want to play these games online, you're still going to have to pay for Xbox Live, whether it's on PC or on Xbox One S or Xbox One X.
I feel like PC players aren't going to go for that.
Yeah, probably not. They probably won't. So, I don't know. I mean, look, I'll say this. It's good to see Microsoft taking a step in the right direction, recognizing there's a problem, and finally starting to do something about it, but it is way too late at this point. And I think that's everyone's biggest sticking point with Xbox One X is, what can I play on that thing that I can't play anywhere else? Sure, it'll look better on that machine, but I think people have proven over the last 20 years that graphical fidelity is, they say in surveys it's important, but when it comes time for them to put money down, it ultimately really isn't that important to a lot of people.
If it was that important, stuff would run at 60 frames per second more.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That's a good point. So, we'll see. And I think this was an opportunity for Microsoft, I think, to move in and get a really good developer that could immediately start creating great content for its platforms. And I think, in honesty, Vince would have been cool with that. Vince has worked great with Xbox in the past.
I just don't think EA was ever going to let that happen as long as they had the first refusal in place. They've got. I think maybe if they just made Titanfall, it might be a different story. But they've got their Star Wars license tied up in this company.
Yeah.
And you don't want to.
You're talking billions of dollars.
Yeah,
there.
And you don't want to start over again.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to announce by the way, this other Star Wars game's
canceled,
and that company's gone, and we've shut this company. Yeah, we're not going to buy that company. It's going to be bought by Microsoft, and we're going to start this game over again with EA Montreal or something.
And it is funny how that all worked out.
If you're a stockholder there, you're like, bail out. You're gone. I mean, come on. That's you don't want to make that announcement. That's terrible.
It sure did work out for Vince and the founders of Respawn, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the startup dream.
That's how it works. Yeah. And for me, it is just a dream.
Oh yeah, I mean, waiting to sell Sifted for $455 million. That's for sure. I mean, look, Respawn took 7 years.
Yeah, so, a whole 7 years. Yeah. So we're almost halfway there, right?
We're almost, no
That's
problem.
what we're valued at. We're about $200 million at this point.
2022. Put it on your calendars. Sell out hard, sell out fast, sell out early.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a huge expansion. I hate to even really call it DLC because it really is an expansion to Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds. Matt, you've been playing it this week. You love the base game of Horizon.
Yep.
I still have not played enough of it. I am looking at...
You got to get around to that because we're going to come down to the Game of the Year.
No, you're absolutely right.
Spoiler, the Game of the Year show is going to be Matt pushes Horizon really hard in every imaginable category.
I think we all knew that already. Yeah. And I have played a few hours of it now, and I think it is something I am probably going to play over Thanksgiving. Maybe during the Black Friday stream, I'll get back into it. But one thing I found is that it's not a great streaming game.
There's a lot of not downtime, but there's a lot of transit.
Yeah, and there's not a lot.
I love just wandering through the world, but it's not very interesting to watch.
Right. The problem with streaming is transit is dead time.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, at that point, you're basically telling the stream about the movies you watched.
Yep.
This week,
It doesn't work well. So I probably will not play it during the stream, but maybe over Thanksgiving holiday, I will get some time to sit down and at least dump maybe 10 or 12 hours into it so I can get a really good idea of where it's coming from. But so here it is.
Actually, I have a suggestion for that if you want. If you have, you might not have time to get far enough in it. Never mind.
Everyone's suggestion is going to be Dark Souls. We know that.
Well,
already.
right, but I'm talking about this game, because one of the things I've noticed about Frozen Wilds is that I think their facial animation and their character work on this is a little better than in the main game.
I can see it right there. Yeah.
And not just the facial animation in general, but also the writing and the performance. There are I'm not too far into it. I've probably been playing 4 or 5 hours. So I've done a few major side quests and I think about half I've gone all over the map. The map is about maybe 25% the size of the whole map of the main game, so it's another quarter added. It's big. It's real big. A bunch of new collectibles, the usual stuff. And I've run all over collecting things and doing little side quests and stuff. And the characters are very memorable and likable. And in particular, there's a side quest you get very early on in the first little village called Waterlogged. And because most of the quest stuff seems to be around level 30.
Okay.
In the Frozen
Far
Wild
beyond
area.
my scope.
Yeah, but if you get far enough and you can get up there and leave a save at the beginning of Waterlogged, stream the quest Waterlogged.
Okay.
Because that has two of the best characters in the game that I like really a lot. There's the girl you get it from is this because it takes place in a dam, a broke down dam, and the tribe there uses the pipes of the dam as drums. So it's this little sub tribe that's musicians, and they just bang on the pipes.
Oh, wow.
And she's a drummer, and she loves the music, and she's got this look on her face when she talks about making the music that I'm I like this. I like this character. And then you meet a guy who's a delver in there, and he's just this happy kind of. It's I'm looking through here. This is amazing. You're great. You're and at the end there's actually a pretty good emotional swerve on it, and I was wow, this is I think it's head and shoulders above any of the side quests they did in the main game. And it kind of drove home again for me. It's man, Guerrilla Games has been underutilized in so many fields, and they're really showing their stuff.
That's what I was saying earlier. They give me hope that Respawn can branch out and do something great.
The resolution of the quest you're seeing here is amazing, and it's subtle, and like if you kind of see what they're going for there, I'm like, oh, that's good. Like I really am impressed by what they're doing here, even in storytelling ways, like even on a level beyond the main game.
Probably best creature design of the year,
It's
I
up
would
there.
say. It's unique. There's no other game that looks like it, and the creatures are... I mean, it's getting hard at this point to create enemies in video games that don't look like something else. And Guerrilla certainly managed to do that. So let's talk a little bit more specifics about the Frozen Wild. How long of an expansion is it? And you're a collecting person. You like to...
Yeah, I do everything. It feels like it's probably going to top out around 15-ish hours. Which is a good,
that's fine.
$1 an hour. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe more if you really dig around and explore, but like for the most part, I feel like I'm pretty close to having all the collectibles that I can get to without doing more story missions. I got a couple more side quests to do. I got to do the hunting quests. It's a beautiful area. If you like ice and snow, it's a beautiful area.
Does it get a little boring after a while? Because it's all ice and snow, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of different terrain. So it
looks great, by the way. I mean, the snow looks amazing.
Oh yeah, the physics in the snow are, and like as you trudge through it, it leaves tracks, it leaves grooves and trenches as you walk through the waist deep snow, and it stays. Like
wow.
It stays.
Really?
It's not like where you run in circles and like footprints disappear after about like 30 yards. Yeah. Like it stays while you're in there. And I mean, it'll cover up again later when you come back. But it's like, I've run around areas and like you can just see just tracks everywhere.
You can follow your tracks back.
Around. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's very well done.
What is the plot for it?
The plot is basically you run into somebody, like a new quest pops up on the main map, and you can just go straight to the area. But if you're far away, a new quest pops up down in the south. You go, and there's a guy who's basically like, those Bannock are crazy. Like it's like there's some weird stuff going on up there, and I don't know what to. I'm a trader. I go up there all the time, and I can't deal with them anymore. If you want to go, more power to you. And she's like, all right, I'll go, because the Bannock are this northern tribe. You run into them briefly in the main game. There's like a little outpost up north where they've got a little because they kind of worship the machines a little bit, and they jam the blue hoses into their skin like almost like tattoos or scarification stuff. And like your mentor / antagonist guy, Silence, in the game is implied to be one because he has the tubes in him and stuff.
Got ya.
And they have a very kind of shamanistic, like mystical, like approach to the machines. But they're also super hardcore hunters who survive these incredibly harsh conditions. So it's like kind of a two-pronged society. So they're like, oh yeah. So like the trader's like, there's a new. Just go up to the cut up there, and like you'll go up there and you'll be able to find your way up and get. So you can now climb this little cliff section that was not climbable before.
Okay.
And then you go and kind of go up over this like pass and through.
Is that what they show when they're going up the ladder there?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a similar thing to that. This is way at the top of the map, the new map. What's happening here? But you can go up there, and then like you get to this little settlement place, and you view some scenes, and there's a couple of guys from the south that are there as traders, and they kind of explain to you what the deal is, and then you start talking to the Bannock, and you start going around and. You have to talk to the chief, and you're looking for this couple characters who are like they know something, and they might know something about this installation from the old ones, which are the pre-apocalypse humans. And so I'm not far enough to really know what the thrust of that is, but you get a couple of new things. You get a thing that sticks on your staff so that you can install mods on it, which you couldn't do before. There's a new collectible called Blue Gleam, which is like this blue crystal that you get for quests, and you can find it like laying around on dead machines. And it's the only currency you can use to buy like the new armor and the new weapons that are exclusive to the DLC. I will say this: the content is like listed as being around level 30. There are like side stuff, like there's like these control towers that spit out like a purple beam thing. That like so by this point you're probably running around with the secret armor like this person is. It's got like you see the shield thing glowing on it, so you've got a shield over your health, and if the shield drops down, it's like Halo. It's dropped down. So basically, once you get that in the main game, you are a god. Like I have not died in this game in probably 30 hours.
Oh, wow.
Playing in the main game. I have died playing the Frozen Wilds 5 times.
Oh, good.
Because
okay.
they're demon-possessed machines. They're like more powerful. Part of the main quest is figuring out why they're more powerful. But the machines in this, like if I went up against 2 or 3 of these, like I came real close a couple times. I've gotten blown away by just guys with arrows because they hurt so much now. Like this is definitely kind of a harder area. It's an expert area to some degree. And then there's like those control towers, a couple of them that the recommended level's 45.
Oh, geez.
And the cap on the base game is 50, and they upped that to 60 in this expansion. But it is definitely the hardest stuff in the game. As
it should be.
Yeah. And it fits
DLC
very well into it's part of the main game. That's one of the things I also like about it is I don't like these DLC expansions that are separate things. Like Shadow of War does that, and a couple other things do that, where it's like instead of being part of the main game, they are just a separate menu option, and you just play that separately. I
think there are pros and cons to that, though.
This adds to the map. And if you have not played this game yet and you play it now, with this just integrated into it, I think it will flow in very nicely.
I think there's pros and cons to that, though. Because you're right. If it's just added into the existing game and into this existing map, it has a continuation, a continuity to it. But a lot of times, by the time you get to DLC, you haven't touched that game for so long that you don't really kind of have that attachment to its world, at least not the same one that you did when you finished it.
If it's an open world game, I just prefer they add to the map rather than give me a separate thing. Like the Dishonored 2, Dishonored 2, I like the way they do that where it's like a separate little campaign because that makes sense for that game type. Yeah. If it's an open world game, just stick a thing on the top of the map and give me more room to run around in.
I think my complaint with that sometimes is that it can make it feel samey. And it doesn't provide a lot of opportunity. Right. So there's pros and cons to it. It doesn't kind of provide that opportunity for the developers to kind of break free and do something a little more unique using that same sort of gameplay system, all the characters and the setting. It just ends up kind of feeling samey a lot of the time. Would you say that's kind of how this feels, or no? Do they do?
No. I mean, I think to me, this game is all about the world and kind of fleshing out how humanity has kind of evolved in different directions, and like I think learning about the new tribe here, because I mean they were in the first game, the original game, but like you didn't know too much. You're just like, oh, look at these weirdos that they stick hoses in themselves and think that the machines are sacred or whatever. And now you're kind of like running into these things. They're very different, and they're very because they are in this harsh environment. Their rules are different, and I think that's fun to kind of piece together who these people are.
Yeah.
And there are different there's a lot more mountainous stuff, a lot more climbing, there's a lot more kind of running down narrow passes. It's a lot harder to avoid the machines in that regard, because a lot of times I'll just run around them or whatever.
Yeah.
But now at one point I'm running across this kind of mountain pass area, it's maybe 40 yards wide, and I hit a point where there's 2 sawtooths in my way, and I'm like, well, can't go around them.
Fight. Yeah.
And now I gotta fight, and these are hardcore machines. These are they're stronger than what you'd normally run into, and it was a hard fight. And I haven't had a hard fight in this game in a long time. I really appreciate how hard it's not like crazy hard, because I'm playing on normal, and like eventually I will probably do a new game plus on ultra hard just to go through and do it again, because I've already played 90 hours of this game.
Well, look, I mean, you've probably been in a place with this game where you have all this upgraded gear, but you haven't really been able to push it and really try it.
Right. I feel like the upgraded gear I have is necessary to survive this section of the game, whereas before it was just a nice way to kind of be invincible.
Just to do whatever the heck you wanted. Yeah, and just check out the world.
It's nice to kind of go back to that feeling of like, oh, like if I make the wrong choice here, this thing's going to kill me. I haven't even tried to fight the demon-possessed Thunderjaws. I'm just like, oh, maybe when I get all the new bows and I can really do some damage. But like,
right.
So yeah, I think it's great. Like
fully worth the $15?
Absolutely, no question. Like if you like the game already, I'd say there's no reason not to. And
I haven't met too many people that have said they don't like it. So.
And if you don't have the game yet, I would definitely get this alongside it, or get the bundle if they do a.
Because they did just drop the price to like $35, I think. For
$9.99 if you got that GameStop error last night. No, this is a worthy edition.
So you can basically buy the game plus the expansion now for $60.
Yeah. Now I would say, buy the game, play it if you like it around the time you hit level 30. buy this.
Gotcha.
Because that's how high you're going to need to be to do this.
Right. And by then you'll figure out if you want.
And by then you'll know if you want to play more, if you want to play in the snow. Yeah, I definitely. I think it's a worthy game. It's a worthy thing to go back to if you've already finished it. It's also a worthy thing to play as part of your first playthrough. There's no bad option.
And totally cool with the full price, $15.
Yeah, I think I've spent $15 on far dumber DLC things.
We all have. All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about Telltale. Now, I have a special history with Telltale because if you remember back at the Spike Video Game Awards, when it was given Game of the Year, The Walking Dead was given Game of the Year, and I didn't say I completely disagree with it. It wasn't my Game of the Year pick for that year, but people asked me why I kind of strayed from the pack, and I said because there's no gameplay, and to me, gameplay is the thing that makes a game eternal. It's what makes it hold up over the long haul.
Or doesn't.
Or doesn't.
Depending. I mean,
or doesn't.
It's the interactivity is what they live or die on.
Yeah. And after that, Telltale just really went on a tear.
Hideo Kojima would agree with you.
Yeah. And since then, Telltale's kind of gone on a tear. I mean, it's been extremely successful. In a lot of ways, proving me wrong, saying, "Look, you don't need gameplay as long as you have great writing, great characters."
Well, I think they also found a new audience to some degree.
Yeah,
like, there's people that play these games I know that don't really play any other games.
Yeah,
they just like this kind of adventure thing.
But
the adventure gamer has been a very underserved demographic since the late 90s, since the LucasArts games ended, basically.
Yeah, you're right. But unfortunately, this week it was announced that Telltale is going through some downsizing. It's laid off 25% of its workforce, which amounted to 100 people, 99 to be specific, but essentially 100 people, which means Telltale's 400 people strong, which probably
they had expanded very aggressively.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised to hear that there were that many people. Because I'm assuming that isn't counting the studios. Or maybe it is.
I think it is, yeah.
Is it?
Oh, definitely. But like the studios encompass a lot of, there's a lot of support personnel, there's, writers, and that may also be counting people that are brought on for, the individual projects. And they've put out a lot this year. A lot of their projects are over at this point.
And, I mean, I can just say from data on Sifted that since Sifted is launched, and it's been 2.5 years now, the interest in Telltale's games has certainly fallen drastically. And to me, I was like, okay, well, I get it. People are kind of burnt out on The Walking Dead at this point and Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But when Batman came out, and it kind of had a little bit of interest out of the gate, but since then it's just fallen off a cliff. People don't care about Telltale's Batman series anymore on Sifted. Do you think that maybe the heyday of Telltale is over?
Maybe. I mean,
the other thing I've noticed too is that the new Life is Strange has not garnered a ton of interest.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect it to. I would be more concerned if Life is Strange 2, when that's eventually released, does that. Yeah. Or maybe was it Vampire? Is that Don't Nod's next game? Is that the same kind of thing?
It's not.
No, it's like an action game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of the problem is they haven't upgraded their engine in forever, and it still looks like it still looks the same. It doesn't look very good, and when you're doing like a story-driven thing, I think we said this for the David Cage games and Until Dawn and stuff, like all I have to look at and all I have to go with and all I have to engage with is the visual presentation, and like these increasingly look, I don't want to say unacceptable, but they're
look, bordering on unacceptable. At this point,
but they look very last gen, I guess would be the way you'd say it. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest on the part of Telltale to fix that.
Yeah.
And
which was why I was surprised they laid people off.
Well, and couple that with how much a lot of always technical problems and weird glitch problems. Sometimes they don't even work on PC the first day. Like they've had a lot of problems with that with Batman, the first Batman season. And the other thing is, I think you end up with people that I'm certainly that way, where like if I'm going to buy one of these things, I'm going to A, wait till they're all out, all the episodes are out for something, and B, wait for the Steam sale. Like it's not a gameplay experience that I find worth full price to me.
I picked up the last season of The Walking Dead, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed to even say this, but I literally started playing it, got to the first scene of the game, and there was just some setup where they're like, aim and shoot the gun, and like they had inverted the controls, and like I missed and I got killed, and I just stopped and never went back to it. It was just this weird curmudgeon-y like gameplay segment that started the game, and I was like, this sucks. Like I have no interest in this anymore. And that was it. That was the last time I played a Telltale game.
I think the last one I played was Guardians of the Galaxy, the first episode.
I tried to play...
I haven't gone back to that because I'm waiting for the other episodes to come out.
I tried to play Minecraft Story Mode. I literally played like 45 minutes of that before... One, I don't really care about Minecraft. And that's kind of the problem for Telltale, is that if you do not care about the properties that its games are based on, there's really nothing there for you.
It's not going to make you a fan.
And that was kind of the point I was making
way
back when.
Except Wolf Among Us.
Yeah.
I would say Wolf Among Us is good enough that you might want to read Fables after you finish that.
Yeah.
But most of, like, Walking Dead, if you're not already in, it's not going to, even if you are, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's also not really based on the TV show, and that's what most people associate with The Walking Dead, other than the people obviously who've been reading the graphic novels.
I mean, I prefer the comics to the show.
I think a lot of people who've read it say that.
But like,
well, The Walking Dead, by the way, kind of sucks now. It has become bad.
I made it like 3 episodes or something into season 2 before I bailed out on that show.
Well, you would call what they're doing now a complete travesty. I remember I tweeted probably about a year ago, Fear the Walking Dead has become a better show than The Walking Dead. And nobody agreed with me. And I bet you they will all agree with me now, that it is by far the better show.
I'll never know.
Yeah. I really liked The Walking Dead for the first few seasons, but it's just kind of fallen off a cliff. But it goes back, what I was saying is that I almost feel a little bit vindicated at this point, because that was kind of the point I was trying to make way back when, was that this game, The Walking Dead, or then you can use any of the other properties that it's done, isn't really a great game. It's a great side story told for people who already like that story. And I think that's what we found with Telltale at this point, is that if it's not telling stories around characters that people are really passionate about, there really isn't all that much there as far as a great video game is concerned. And I think that's maybe what is coming to grips with at this point is, hey, maybe we do need to maybe incorporate at least a little bit more gameplay. Like, I loved Life is Strange. I thought it was great. It didn't have much more gameplay than Telltale's games, but it had a little more.
And I also think Life is Strange has I think Life is Strange is better written than most of Telltale's stuff.
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
There's a little more, a little more of an indie film quality to it, and I felt a little like it was a little more of a complete piece of storytelling.
Yeah.
In terms of creating characters that you believe. I mean, because part of Telltale's strength is also part of their weakness. Is their strength is they have a lot of recognizable properties, but the weakness of that is you're locked into who these characters are.
No, you're right.
And they have more freedom in some and less freedom in others. I mean, I think they had an amazing amount of freedom with Batman to kind of reinvent him and reinvent that world into something that they could tell a new story. And clearly they took from wherever they wanted, and like the Penguin in that series is much more the Gotham Penguin, from the Gotham TV series, which I think is, while Gotham has not been amazing, the take on the Penguin in that series is amazing. Like it's a great narrative choice, and it was cool to see Telltale kind of pick that up and run with it. But I finished that season, the first season of Batman. I can't tell you what happened in the end of it because I don't remember. I don't even remember exactly what happened in Guardians, the first step. I mean, I remember, but they killed Thanos, but I'm pretty sure Thanos is coming back because he's Thanos. And then everybody disagreed on what to do with him, and there was probably a cliffhanger. I don't know. Like, it's just like it's so mild, I guess would be my description. And which is weird because when The Walking Dead won all those awards, it was because everyone couldn't believe, all the places that story went. Right. And that seems to be...
And look, that first season of The Walking Dead was really good.
But it's really that good. Adventuresome angle seems to be kind of gone from the writing.
I think you don't need a better testament to what's going on at Telltale than if you look at the fact that it has the Game of Thrones video game license. And those games do not sell especially well. Mm-hmm. I mean, that should be...
They only do one season of that?
A license to print money. I mean, think about that. Why were there not new episodes of that coming out during this last season the show was airing on HBO? Like, it's either...
Seems like right now would be a good time for that since you're stuck between seasons for like 6 months.
It totally would. I mean, whenever. Any time is good for new Game of Thrones content.
But again, they're hamstrung by that license a little bit because they can't tell a story that matters. Because you can't affect the world. Because the world is in motion in the main story of the show. They were kind of telling stories about third-tier characters.
Well, no, a lot of the main characters are in it.
They intersect
but they're just side stories.
Yeah, they're not like anything that's going to matter in the end. It's like watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like,
I don't know that it has to have consequence on canon for it to be compelling, but the fact of the matter is there's only one video game publisher / developer that has rights to make Game of Thrones video games. Well, it's Telltale.
Who made that action RPG Game of Thrones game? Remember that?
No.
It was like an action RPG with you played like 2 like little minor lords that didn't show up in the show or something.
No, I don't remember that at all.
It was like 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I don't remember that.
It wasn't very good. It was like a
obviously.
Hack, it was like a
if I don't remember it,
action,
I'm a huge Game of Thrones.
It's like a hack and slash action RPG thing. I remember it was right.
Oh, I do remember it now. I do remember it.
Remember, yeah. It was. I remember who made that. I assume they don't have that license anymore, though.
But look, if you made a really good action RPG based on the Game of Thrones license, it would do absolutely bonkers. And I think that's the problem that Telltale has. It's like, we got this awesome license that most publishers would kill for, but we really can't do anything with it because we don't make real video games. I mean, when it really comes down to it.
They make a certain kind of video game.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically creating cutscenes that you're patching together by walking.
They're making point-and-click adventure games with a 3D element to
them. They're not even point-and-click adventure games, though, because they don't even have, the puzzle elements to them.
They're very simple puzzle elements.
Very simple. Hey, find this bottle and bring it over here.
You're not making a fake mustache out of cat hair underneath a door to fake your way into a room disguised as someone who doesn't have a mustache.
Right.
That's for the Gabriel Knight fans. But I mean, they're the kind of the spiritual, simplified successor to that genre. It's like, just like everything is today. It's like how we have tower defense now. Where does tower defense come from? Missile command.
Yeah.
Put someone who plays tower defense now on a missile command machine and see how fast they die because that's that's just how it goes. You want to expand your audience, so you got to make it much easier to play. And I feel like I don't like to say dumbed down, but when I play play Telltale games, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like sugar-free candy, I guess.
I mean,
it's not what I want, but it's kind of what they make now. So
I just feel like because of the path the path that Telltale's gone down, now it's found itself at a place where it has a lot of possibilities, but the reality of it is that they can't really manifest success out of the possibilities that it has.
I think they'd be smart to kind of go more the route that they have with Guardians of the Galaxy and kind of take these licenses that they can kind of go crazy with and tell their own stories and not be beholden to some kind of canon.
Yeah.
And they were doing that with Walking Dead for a while, but I think it's very wise that they're basically saying that's over. Because I feel like you don't do so much with that. I mean, this show's running into that problem, too.
Oh, it has. At this point, the TV show is just the same stuff's happening over and over. They just find a new enemy who has a new complex for them to have conflict with, eventually take it over. Somebody shows up, runs them off, they find another one. It's just rinse and repeat at this point. So, I don't know. I mean, I will say one thing. Most of the people I know that work at Telltale are really amazing people. Mm-hmm. And so, in that sense, I wish Telltale a lot of luck, and I hope their fortunes turn around.
I just hope they end up with the time and the money to put a technology upgrade into their work, into their upcoming stuff before maybe the worst happens. Because I'd like to see how these games fare if they are more of a graphically impressive product.
Look, I mean,
that's all these things got.
You're right. Everyone says The Wolf Among Us is great. I have not played hardly any of it. I think I played the first episode of the first season. But another season of Wolf Among Us is not going to change the fortunes of Telltale.
No, I'd play it.
But it's not going to change the ship or remove the ship from its impending course with the iceberg, so to speak.
Well, the Batman thing is all well and good, but I think they should shift to making. They should start doing Supergirl and Arrow and those CW properties that have a built-in audience that wants to be told a good story and might pick that up on their iPad or something.
And they probably have a little more leeway with how they write the stories as well, because the characters aren't quite as coveted, the fans aren't quite as rabid. It probably give them a little more headroom for creativity.
The CW fans are rabid, my friend. You look.
I don't know a single show that's on the CW.
You look up the Supernatural fandom one day, and you tell me if you come out of that intact.
Really?
Oh,
I don't think I've ever watched the CW in my life.
Well, I'm not going to tell you to do it.
It doesn't sound like I'm this
much. Just because some things. We don't need to be corrupted on every level.
Yeah.
But
just on most.
But if you could probably do worse than to sit down with your wife and give Supernatural a shot.
Okay.
Especially if you like the X-Files.
I do.
Because half the people who made the X-Files went and made this show, and the other half went and made Breaking Bad, basically. And
interesting split.
So, because it's shot in Vancouver, if you remember anyone who was ever on the X-Files, even like one episode, they're in Supernatural.
Okay.
Like you'll be like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's that girl. It's that woman. They're all in it. And so it's like this nice little. It's like X-Files with Supernatural stuff, and it's like a big reunion show because everybody shows up eventually. Watch the first 5 seasons and then stop.
That's a big commitment. 5 seasons of a TV show.
Not when a TV show's 12 seasons long.
Wow. I didn't even know that show existed.
Still going.
It's been going for 12 years. That's hilarious. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a big announcement that came from Ubisoft. Yves Guillemot this week basically came out and said that we should not expect new consoles for at least 2 years, Matt. Mm-hmm. Do you think you're not surprised by that?
Not really.
PlayStation 5, not until 2020?
Well, does he mean 2 years as in late 2019 or 2020?
He said at least 2 years, and he said it 2 days ago. So I guess late 2019.
If you're talking literally see them 2 years from now on the shelves, then that's about in line with your prediction of PS5 shown at E3 2019 and released that fall.
Yeah.
If he means see them
shown,
admitted that they exist,
right?
Then you're talking about a year later than I think most people thought it would be.
What do you think about that, Matt?
If true, then it sounds like Sony's not too worried about the Xbox One X.
No. That's for damn sure.
Like, they're moving at their own pace, and they're not worried about what Microsoft
Well, here's the thing. This is the head honcho at Ubisoft.
He would know.
If anybody knows, he knows. So you can pretty much write it down. We're not seeing PlayStation 5 for 2 more years.
Yeah.
And chances are probably won't see an Xbox for another year after that, I'm guessing.
Maybe.
After just releasing the X. I can't see Microsoft...
we'll probably see iterations of the X. But, in terms of brand new hardware... hey, 2020 isn't that far away.
It doesn't make sense, honestly, though, for Microsoft to release another console within the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. After all the R&D that it's done on Xbox One X, it will just finally, at that point, be getting to a reasonable, consumer-friendly price.
Yeah, at best you're looking at like an S version at some point.
Which
you don't even really need because it's so small already.
Yeah, they really don't need to make it smaller. I don't know what features they could put in it.
Different colors would be all different, the funky limited edition stuff that everybody does.
Yeah, but I'm assuming the guts stay the same.
The guts would be the same, yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft at this point with the X, it's like, where does it go now? Just get more powerful in 2 years.
I guess.
Throw more RAM at it. It's already like a 4K capable PC in a shoebox, essentially.
I feel like the same thing's going to be true of the PlayStation.
The PS5.
Really, the PS5 it's going to be more powerful. It's going to, probably be able to do 4K without checkerboarding, maybe. Right. It will probably have an Ultra HD Blu-ray drive in it, and that's it. What else is there at this point? Unless there's like a really big doubling down on the VR thing. I don't see that happening.
Sony has said repeatedly over the last 2 or 3 weeks that it has no interest in pursuing the business model Nintendo has pursued. Mm-hmm. And it says every time, we believe there's very limited opportunity in handheld.
Yeah. Oh, they learned their lesson, I think, on that. They won't try that again.
But Nintendo's, proved it wrong.
Nintendo is Nintendo, though.
Yeah.
Like, Sony has proven that, the Vita was a very powerful piece of hardware. didn't matter.
Yeah.
Sony doesn't seem capable of supporting a handheld system properly, which Nintendo clearly does. I mean, Nintendo's the expert there. Nintendo has hybridized, the system to make it, a console and a handheld. But as the cost of that is weaker hardware, performance-wise, and Sony's never going to do that. I mean, Sony is a hardware manufacturer that will never say we're gonna make a lateral move and just make this thing portable as well as a console. They're never going to do that. Like also because at that point they're just following Nintendo, and what happens when Sony follows Nintendo's ideas? Nothing.
Well, unless it borrows some stuff.
They borrow, but I mean, sure. I mean, the PlayStation came from Nintendo. I mean, that was going to be Super Nintendo's CD drive, basically. But they copied the Wii for the Move. Nothing. Yeah. They copied the handheld thing and tried to make it. Now we're going to give you something unlike the DS. It's like, oh, this one's super powerful and it's got a touchscreen as well, but it plays like Ultra HD, and no one gave a shit.
Yeah, no one really cared about Vita at all. It's just in America anyway.
And I say that as a launch day Vita buyer.
Me too.
It was not a thing that mattered. And even then,
it's probably my least played platform I've bought in the last decade.
That would probably be true, yeah.
I don't even know where mine is right now, now that I think about it.
Neither do I, and I should probably figure that out because I got to move soon. But it was just, and even, I mean, my problem with the PSP was the same thing. It's like, you're giving me, what do you want me to buy on this system? Inferior versions of things I already have in the PlayStation 3.
I did play my PSP a good bit, though.
But then, they came along, they're like, oh, we're not going to make the same mistake with the Vita that we made with the PSP, because we recognize that consumers want original games they can only play on the Vita. And then what did they put out? Inferior versions of what it was the same exact thing.
It repeated the same thing it did the first time. Let's get back to the topic, though.
So I don't think you will ever see a handheld from Sony again.
I don't either. But let's talk about 2 years from now, though, Matt. Do you think at that point it's too long? Because Sony, the way it's kind of staggered its hardware iterations with PlayStation 4 Pro, 2 years from now maybe is a little long. Like, it makes sense maybe from Microsoft's perspective, or right around 2 years from now, maybe the Xbox One X is starting to look a little long in the tooth. Mm-hmm. PlayStation 4 Pro by then will definitely be, because on the other flip side of that, now you have the Xbox One X on the market that's going to eventually make the PS4 Pro look pretty shabby. Do you think another 2 years with the PlayStation 4 Pro and because eventually the PlayStation 4 Pro is going to be down to $200, and the base model will just be completely gone, like they have with the base Xbox at this point?
I don't think it matters.
You don't think it matters?
No.
You don't think that there's that hype that's generated by the PlayStation 5 that gets people excited?
For us, sure, but for the mainstream audience that makes the PlayStation the hit it is, they can't tell the difference, really.
I don't think that. I think if you put a game in front of them and said, tell me which one's running on Pro and which one's on the base, I don't think they could do it. But I do think that there's a big difference between calling a console PlayStation 4 Pro and calling a console PlayStation 5.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. Once they call a console, regardless of what's inside it, once they call the console PlayStation 5, immediately the interest for that piece of hardware just, to me, shoots up astronomically. And so waiting another 2 years for that big announcement, to make that big announcement that finally gets you back on the USA Today and the New York Times and the LA Times, and Pro didn't do any of that. Like, it came out with a whimper, and it's still kind of at a whimper. It hasn't sold especially well. I think that big event of the new PlayStation, the PlayStation 5, I think that is something that our industry needs on a regular basis. What? And at that point, 2 years from now, how long of a lifespan would that have been for PlayStation 4?
4 or Pro?
For 4.
Just 4?
Yeah.
So you're saying, like, let's say they show it at what, E3 2019 or 2020?
Let's say it comes out holiday 2019.
Okay, so they show it at E3 2019 and release it that holiday.
Yeah.
So that would be 6 years.
6.
Because PlayStation 4 launched the end of 2013. Same with the Xbox.
Yeah, I guess that's not so bad, really. Because, I mean, the PlayStation 3 lasted 7, plus some change.
PlayStation 3 was 8, I want to say.
Was it 8?
No, it was 7.
7 plus a couple months.
It was 360, 2005, and 2006 was the Wii and the PS3.
Right. And then Sony promised right then and there that it would not, that the PlayStation 4's life would not last as long as PlayStation 3's, but maybe Sony feels like it's off the hook at this point because
right, when they made that statement, they had not just trounced everybody.
Right.
And there was no way to think they were going to.
And it could also be a case where it's like, well, we released the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you can always do. I mean, that's a little
Scapegoat.
Reggie style, but you can get away with that. Okay.
That is Reggie style. But do you think that what we have with the PlayStation 4 Pro is enough to carry for the next 2 years to keep interest in the industry so that revenue doesn't start falling through the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think...
Are you going to be happy playing PlayStation 4 Pro for the next 2 years?
Sure.
Yeah?
I mean, certainly on like their exclusives. I mean, is there a point at which maybe I would shift to playing multi-platform stuff on the Xbox One X because it just looks better? Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
But I will always have a Sony system to play their exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, same reason I have a Nintendo system, frankly. I mean, I like Sony and Nintendo's first-party output enough to buy their system just for that. And that's why I had a PlayStation 3. I played almost nothing multi-platform on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, me either.
But I had it for all their first-party output because I think it's really good. So, yeah, it's good enough for me. I mean, and also they've got a huge lead. I think they're only going to be able... I don't think Microsoft is going to catch them. I think the Switch might.
Oh, it'll
eventually.
never catch them. Yeah.
So
I don't think Switch will either.
So I think the hype level, I think that is all up to when Sony wants to make it happen. You are actually where you remember when they announced PlayStation 3 and everything, or no, it was the year 360 was being pushed real hard, and Jay Allard was in his hoodie suit coat sitting on the stage rapping with us.
Yeah.
And then like Sony said basically like they had a whole slide up this like the HD era begins when we say it does.
Right. Yeah.
The next wave of consoles begins now when Sony says it. Like they can put whenever they want to put PS5 out, they can. And maybe depending on how things go over the next 2 years, maybe they decide that's 2019 holiday. Maybe they decide it's 2020 holiday. Like who knows?
I would be really shocked because I think eventually Microsoft with the X will start chipping away a little bit at Sony. Because I think it's going to be blatantly obvious that games look better on X. All the third-party stuff.
I think you will see a shift. I mean, also, let's not forget what has traditionally driven a lot of system adoption on like kind of the mid-range. As you see more and more people pick up 4K televisions, as those become the only televisions you can buy, because that's certainly...
It's kind of there already.
Kind of there.
Yeah.
I mean, this Black Friday, if you want a television, you're going to get a 4K, whether you like it or not.
And they're pretty cheap.
Yeah, they've normal televisions now. It's not
like the cost of a TV now.
It's not a bell and whistle anymore.
Yeah.
4K is just what things are. You're going to want something that can play that, and when you're looking at what can do that? The Xbox One X has the drive and the PlayStation 4 Pro doesn't.
Yeah.
So unless you're totally digital...
And you're talking about films and everything.
Yeah. Well, unless you're totally... Yeah, I'm talking completely about films.
Yeah.
Unless you're totally digital on the PlayStation... because PlayStation 4 Pro can do that digitally, but it can't do it in the drive because the drive is not Ultra HD.
Yeah.
You're going to default to the Xbox. And eventually, that is going to become a factor.
And I hope it does.
And Sony will recognize that and react to it, hopefully.
And I hope that does sort of erode away at Sony's lead and spur Sony on to be like, hey, maybe we need to get it in gear.
Well, especially considering...
And we're not waiting until 2020 for PS5.
Well, especially considering Sony makes movies.
Right.
And TV shows.
Yep.
And so there's a point at which...
Where Microsoft
and
is even worried about
I get
that.
there's like the divisions have a lot of internal conflict, but at a certain point... It's kind of ridiculous if you're sitting there looking like people are buying our content and playing it on the competitor's system.
We also Kaz Hirai, who comes from the PlayStation brand, who's running things.
Now, to be fair,
so he knows better than anyone.
Now, to be fair, they do get a cut of all that because they own Blu-ray.
But
like, it would be better to have that on your own system, right? And so that means you got to put out a system that can do it. That's the thing. Is like I think they were smart to keep the price down on the PS4 Pro by not putting that 4K Blu-ray drive in there. But that's going to become a liability in the mid-range market as you move forward. Because at a certain point, even if you're a mid-range consumer that doesn't necessarily care about the cutting-edge, bleeding-edge AV stuff, if you have a 4K TV you got at Black Friday, you want something that's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I think people are more savvy about that to some degree now, especially with the advising stuff they have in all these big box stores now that tell you about what these things you need are, as opposed to the old days where you had whatever, like 30-40% of people who had an Xbox 360 had hooked it up with the composite cables, and they didn't know. But I feel like that is becoming... now you've got HDMI, it's not as confusing, and I think you're going to need, they're probably going to have all that AutoMotion Plus shit on anyway, but I think that will eventually become a factor going into the late part of next year, and that's when Sony's going to have to make the call, do we put this out now, or do we hold it off another year? Because they got to know what the PlayStation 5 is, hardware-wise.
Oh, yeah, they've already spent hundreds of millions on R&D for PlayStation 5, guaranteed.
It's just a matter of tweaking, like how much RAM is in it, or how much of the the clock speed of various things,
and everything.
Price it all out, decide which year you want to launch it, and I think they still have the flexibility to choose 19 or 20 at this point.
And my hope is that Microsoft will start eroding away at that lead of Sony. Sony's will start to get cold feet, and it'll step up the production.
I think that sounds like a pretty believable scenario to me. My other question, of course, is like, man, Ubisoft blows the lid off like next-gen shit on a regular... Remember Watch Dogs? They're like, oh, this isn't running on it. I don't know. It's just like, hey, what could happen? Like, what could we do? It's like just a thing we made. We don't know what to do. And we're like, bro. And
Ubisoft is a really important partner, though. Microsoft and Sony are like...
Yeah, it's not like you can really do anything about it, but man, they love pushing it right.
They
to the line,
break a lot of hardware news without a doubt. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is a case where the hardware news was not good. I wasn't happy to see this, but
I think 2 years is about right, depending on how the shift of like a 6-month window there.
And I would say, the recent stuff that we've seen with Ghost of Tsushima and God of War. And to a lesser extent, The Last of Us Part 2, although I think ultimately when we see more of that game, it'll look amazing too. It does seem like incrementally, games are starting to look better. I still don't feel like it's kind of hit that flat line where that's it. We've squeezed everything out of it that we can.
Yeah, they're still looking better and better, especially the first-party stuff.
From the better developers, sure. So I think once you hit that plateau, though, that's when
right. And if you push it much further past this, you blow my prediction that Last of Us 2 will be a tandem release.
Right.
On 5 and 4.
I think that's probably not going to happen.
I don't know. Like, where do you think?
I think Last of Us will be out next year.
You think?
Like late next year, yeah.
I still think it's in 2019.
Because they've shown so much of it now.
They haven't really shown much of it. They've shown that one teaser and they showed that one trailer with the one scene. We haven't even seen gameplay yet.
No, we haven't. It's true.
So I'm still saying 2019 for that game.
We'll see. All right, let's move on to our last topic of the show.
Eves may have blown a hole in that theory. So.
Yeah, you might have. We're going to talk about Call of Duty World War II, because we talked about it last week on the show, but we had not had a ton of time with it. We had played a bunch of multiplayer, not much of the campaign. And we'd said last week we'd come back and kind of give our updated opinions on it. I have played a lot of this over the last week. Let's start first with the campaign. What do you think?
I played 2 missions and never went back to it. I don't like it I don't know what it... I mean, it's like, I feel stupid because I spent so long saying, oh, World War II would be cool to go back there, and I like the... And I played the opening mission of the invasion of the beach and the follow-up on that, and I started the 3rd one, and I was just like, I don't want to play... It doesn't feel good to me. I like the characters. I like the story they're telling, and I love Zussman. I think he's great. So I feel like I might actually, and I almost never. I might just watch it on YouTube because I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it. I kind of want to see what happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But I like what the storytelling is going on. Like that Zussman comes back before he should because he gets injured in the first mission, and the sergeant's giving him a hard time, and he just slapped him on the side, like where the injury is. He's like, "Yeah, you're okay."
Yeah.
You okay? You okay? And you can see him just kind of go,
wincing,
It's a very subtle facial expression, but they pull it off. And and then you find out why the sergeant is being a jerk to him about it, and that's a good reason. Why he's like, I mean, I like all that, but then it makes me play the game, and I just find it, I don't know why I don't find it as tight and cool.
I just think it's dull.
Yeah, but I go back to I put in Infinite Warfare again to go back and the remastered Modern Warfare, from last year. I'm like, do I just not feel like playing? And those things just feel so crisp
and buttery,
and it's just not there in this game.
No, I agree with you. I think it feels really clunky to play. Awkward. There's all kinds of weird mechanics in it that haven't been in other Call of Duty games, or they were 12 years ago or 13 years ago. And the industry's just kind of moved on. I don't know. I mean, I would definitely not buy this game just for the campaign. The gameplay itself...
I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, because you're not a big multiplayer guy.
No, I played some multiplayer, mostly War and Search and Destroy, which are probably my 2 favorites. Search and Destroy is like the the 2 squads, and once you die, that's it until the next round. Those are my 2 favorite kind of general multiplayer modes in games. And I just don't... I like a lot of the maps in War, especially the Operation Neptune map is really cool because it's a beach invasion. I love beach invasion multiplayer maps. But it's just... It hasn't really... It always kind of comes down to fighting over the same little choke point and, like... It's just, everybody's...
You just run into the slaughter.
Yeah, just everybody's running into the same doorway over and over. And it's just... And there always comes a point after, like, an hour or so of that where I'm just like, I don't care if I'm better at this than anybody else.
Yeah. I will say, so we were pretty harsh on the multiplayer after playing the beta. And I will say this much. I think it's improved over the beta pretty significantly.
I definitely didn't notice as much sync problems as before.
I've enjoyed it a lot more than I have the beta. I'm like level 20-something now.
I'm like level 9.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I understand why you wouldn't go past that. But I'm like level 20, and I think I'll probably play it a little bit more. But here's one thing I would say. I do not like the change to the more simplified combat in the game. I think it loses a lot, having played much more complex games for the last half-decade pretty much now, or more actually at this point, if you really want to talk about Modern Warfare 1 and 2 and Black Ops and all that. But the traversal stuff is what more specifically I'm talking about. I really miss that stuff. But here's what I would say, is if you're a player who maybe bought one of the last 3 Call of Duties and didn't enjoy it because it had become so complicated and you were just getting your butt handed to you because of how complicated the traversal had become and people had mastered it and you hadn't. World War II kind of re-levels the playing field. It's a very simple game to play, and really the only skills that you need are learning the maps and having a quick trigger finger and an accurate thumb with the stick. You don't have to worry about all the crazy jumping and jetpacking and sliding and all this other stuff that complicated games before. In all honesty, created like a skill ceiling, I guess, in a lot of ways. It's all gone now. Like, I feel like people who have maybe were good at the first Modern Warfare or the second Modern Warfare or maybe even the first Black Ops and then felt like they kind of got left behind after that, this is their game. This is a game that they can come back to and enjoy again and be competitive at again. And I also feel like the modes, War in particular, is a mode that's going to appeal to a much wider group of people because there's stuff to do other than kill or be killed. There are useful roles that you can fill. And that's one area of this franchise that's always fallen short compared to Battlefield is there just aren't that many roles.
Yeah, if you don't like the base gameplay,
combat,
there's not much else for you to do.
There's nothing for you there. And I feel like War does a good job of doing that. And I feel like another place where Sledgehammer tried to accomplish that, but in my opinion failed, is in the classes. I do not like how the classes work now. I don't like how you build your character now. I mean, you can have pretty much any weapon and attachment on any of the classes. But it's like the perks that are different per class. I have no idea why you would ever limit what someone can do with their creative character. That just does not compute to me. And maybe, again, it was Sledgehammer trying to simplify things so that older crowd comes back. I don't know. But that's one part of the multiplayer that I don't like. And I do miss the traversal. I still do like those futuristic versions of the game more. But I think on the whole, a larger group of people will like World War II than have liked the last few games. The campaign, to me, you said you liked the story. I really just didn't really give a crap about any of it. I haven't finished it. I think I'm on like the next to last mission or whatever. But like you, I got to that point and I was just like, I just don't care. I don't care what happens to any of these characters. At that point, it kind of...
I just went back to Horizon.
Yeah. Zombies, I think, is way better. I've had way more fun with zombies this time than I've had in a long time, since maybe like the first Black Ops. It used to be zombies was only in Treyarch's games. Now it's in all of them. But this is the most fun I've had with zombies in a long, long time in a Call of Duty game. And so for once, this added bonus that a lot of people only buy the game for actually has some value for me, because it's more serious than it has been in the past. It's not quite as tongue-in-cheek and corny, and it doesn't try to be funny. And I always like that more serious angle towards it from the beginning.
Did they ever do like a future-y zombie one?
Kinda.
That like matched the other future game? Because I was a little disappointed that Infinite Warfare's was
it stood out like a sore thumb.
Comedy 50s drive-in stuff and not
That's
like...
what I'm talking about. It didn't make sense within the context of the greater game. This one does as much. I mean, also it's Nazi zombies.
Right.
Which is where it started, and you're actually fighting Nazis again in Call of Duty World War II. So... Campaign to me, complete wash, not really worth much. It didn't, to me, I honestly don't feel like they put a lot of effort into it.
It feels very much like it's just the same, going through the same scenarios in the same places with the same kind of band of brothers elements.
There's just nothing epic about it. Like every Call of Duty, love them or hate them, there's at least a few moments in every single one of its campaigns where you're like, damn. Like, after you finish a mission and the screen goes black, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, these just sort of stop.
Yeah, it just doesn't,
and at one point, like you have that, like, Jeep chase thing, and, like, you end up in the town, and you shoot some guys, you're like, all right, it's getting dark, everybody, hunker down. I'm like, wait, why don't we go get more? And it's like, no, that's it, forget it. And it was like, okay, I guess that was the end of the level. It was very
It just feels like
odd.
an afterthought. And maybe that's where games are going now. I mean, campaigns... That's kind of
maybe where these games are going.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the industry right now. I mean
I didn't feel that about Infinite Warfare's campaign.
No, it was amazing. I thought it was great, but it sold like crap. So what does that teach Activision? It teaches Activision, well, hey, maybe the campaign isn't all that important.
Campaign doesn't matter.
Yeah, the multiplayer is what matters, and I really believe that these games have become so complicated that it was cutting off a big part of its audience. Because people are just like, I can't get this. I'm finishing games with like 2 kills and like 25 deaths or whatever. And they just gave up. And then they hear year after year, we're going even more in. Now we're giving you a freaking jetpack. You can do more than slide and run on walls. Now you can fly. And I think to us, that sounds great. I think the people who were already intimidated by what had come before it was like, oh my gosh, no, let's go back to something more simple. And that is exactly what you get here.
Most slide there.
Yeah, most of the modes are, other than war, and there's one that's like a football mode where you pick up a ball and try to carry it to a goal. Other than those 2 modes, everything is very stock. It's team deathmatch, it's domination, it's conquest, it's capture the flag, hard point. And look, I mean, they're usually pretty good about putting out new modes for this, but one criticism I also have of this series over the last few years is they put out cool modes, and then they keep them up for like a month in the main playlist. And then they go away, and then no one even knows they're there anymore, and then you can't get a game of them anymore. They end up getting buried in like the special playlist. So
I'm still in that thing where like you just die so much.
Yeah.
Like even in the footage here, it's just like, time to death is like 30 seconds at most sometimes.
I mean, that's the Call of Duty formula, though. That's what is built its brand on. That's what people love about it.
But I just like, I like the Battlefield approach a little more, where like you can keep it going for a while if you playing right and you're playing your role correctly.
The only way you stay alive in this game is to go someplace where you know there is nobody.
And there is no place like that I can find. They're very circular maps.
No, you're right. A lot of the maps are very circular, and I mean, I would probably guess 70% of the time I get killed, I get shot by someone I never see. Just someone who I round the corner, and they round the corner, and they shoot me in the back or whatever. But that is the formula. That is what has made the series successful for all this time. So,
and also, like, playing it, like, already people, like, outclass me in a way that I'm just never going to be. I mean, like, watching the replays where it's like, it is what happened on the screen. It's not like that sync problem again.
Yeah.
But you'll see, like, they saw me pass a doorway like 4 quarters that way.
They run after you.
And then they just stop, and they wait, and then they pull out and they point the gun, and I walk right out in front of them, and they shoot me in the face. And it's like, they knew exactly where I was going to be, exactly when I was going to be there.
That's what I was talking about earlier about knowing the maps.
They know the maps in a way that I'm never going to.
Knowing the maps is really the key to being good at Call of Duty, in all honesty. Not just knowing the layout, but knowing the most likely traffic patterns.
Right.
And knowing where a person is most likely to go once you get that glimpse of them from across the map. Knowing where the choke points are. Knowing what always happens when a match starts. A lot of the best players will get 6 kills in the first 20 seconds of the game. Because they'll sprint, they'll get set up somewhere, and they know where everyone's going to come rushing in.
I saw that happen one match where we were on the USS Texas map, and like half the team,
Sniper's Paradise.
Half the team went to the right, and as we came around the second corner, a grenade blew up. and we all died.
Yeah.
And it was like he had just tossed it over.
Well, it's like once you get good at it, like as soon as you spawn, you throw a grenade.
Right.
Because you know exactly where their spawn points are. I got that way with like Black Ops and Black Ops 2. I played it so much and got so good at it that as soon as I spawned, I just turned and threw a grenade. And I guarantee every time that grenade was landing right on a freaking spawn point or someplace where people always hold up and camped. Like, you just learn it after a while. And some of these people that are playing have been playing, like, you know, they like prestiged in the beta and whatnot. Right. Like, it takes literally months to get that good at the game, and most people don't have that time. So, I mean, it may sound like I'm kind of down on it, but really what I'm saying is, if you're someone who's lapsed on this franchise because the multiplayer got too out of hand and you felt like you couldn't compete, you couldn't dedicate the time to it to become competitive, I think you should jump back in here if you enjoyed the base tenets of what Call of Duty is, because it does take away a lot of the things that really separated the amazing / great players from just the good players. And I feel like the playing field is a lot more level than it was before. This is the war mode right here, by the way. In some cases, the war mode is more cinematic than the campaign. I'm not even like exaggerating. Yeah. Like, this is the war mode. There are cutscenes that open and close each round of the war mode. They kind of give you context for it. And this is Storming the Beach at Normandy as a multiplayer mode, which is great. And I think that's worth a go, too. So, yeah, I will say this. Like, after the beta, I like this more now than I did. Will I keep playing this? Probably not. Although I will say I'm slightly hooked on it now. Like, it is kind of turned into this game now where if I have 20 minutes to kill here or there, which I rarely ever have, I will play it up. I'll pick it up and I'll play a match or two. So, I'll be online. I'm Din Fire. Friend me. We'll kill other people. Other digital people. Together. But I do enjoy, now that I've had time with it and played it a good bit, I do like it more than I did at the beta. And I can understand a little bit more. And the other part of it, too, is that now I've got up to a high enough level where I'm not at a disadvantage because of gear. And that was a huge problem for me, especially in the beta. And even with this when I first started, because I actually jumped in a little later. Some people were in early. And I had that same problem at first where their gear was just completely outranking mine.
Well, the first match I played was, I think the game had been out like 2 days, I think.
Yeah. Well, then you were just way
I was
behind.
You load in the lobby and you see everybody. So my character is level 1. The lowest level of anyone else in the game was 36.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and in this,
the matchmaking's not great.
Well, I mean, there probably weren't enough people that low level to match
There probably
with.
were, though. Yeah, I mean, when you sell that many copies of a game and it's just 2 days after launch, yeah, there were definitely people to match you up with. I don't even know what they use to matchmake people, but I do know this. The first day you play this game, it's rough. Playing against other people who are prestige or 50 or 40 or even 30, it's tough. But try to get over the hump, and I think you'll see what I was talking about, which is ultimately the playing field has been leveled a little bit, and intermediate to skilled players can compete in this game and have success. So I think that's it. I think that's our last time talking about Call of Duty World War II on GameFace. So I don't think it's going to come up in the Game of the Year show.
No, not for me.
Not for me either. And I would be the person who it would be coming from. I'm already starting to figure out like my favorite shooter of the year, and I think it's going to surprise people.
I feel like the sound design in this was a little anemic.
Yeah,
agreed. I don't feel like
agreed. There's no punch.
It doesn't punch.
Although my wife made a very specific comment that, so here's how it works. I sit on the couch playing. I have a satellite speaker right behind my head, and then she sits to the left of me on her Mac, like surfing the internet or Facebook or whatever. And so this satellite speaker is right here in between us. And she walked up and she goes, those gunshots sound really real. Like, freaking her out. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I thought someone was shooting outside. So, from her opinion is that they sound amazing. I agree with you, though. They don't have that, And Sledgehammer was good at that, too. Like, having those sound effects that you would just kind of feel in your chest. If you had, like, a really good surround sound setup. And I agree with you. It seems anemic. I just feel like the campaign's a wash. If you're buying it for the campaign, forget it. But multiplayer ended up being better than I thought it was after playing the beta. So there you go. Call of Duty World War II. It's time for our trailer of the week. This is also your opportunity to get your questions into the chat. As always, please use @SiftedGames if you're asking us a question. so we can fish the questions out of all the comments that are scrolling through there. It makes it a lot easier for us. And our trailer of the week this week, I had assumed all week it was going to be the new cinematic for Overwatch, because that kind of happened while we were recording the show last week, and it's great. And I was like, well, that's the default. It is always. Anytime there's a new cinematic release, we always have it as our trailer of the week. But no. Yesterday, a brand new game was announced from the studio behind PUBG, Bluehole. Bluehole is working on an MMORPG. I don't know if you heard it or not. It looks like Tencent might buy Bluehole.
I heard that. I didn't hear about this thing we're about to
Oh, really?
No, I didn't
wow.
know about this.
So, if you know me, or you even just watch GameFace, or you know me from my GT days or Invisible Walls days, you know I never care about MMORPGs. Like, they show up, they're like, this is the one, Shane, check it out. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've tried MMOs because people said, this is the one you're going to like. And I always end up not liking them. And it's probably one of my least favorite genres. On Sifted, I have MMORPG turned all the way down for my Sift. But this MMORPG coming from Bluehole, it's also being developed in conjunction with the folks who created Terra. Looks awesome. Absolutely awesome. It is called Ascent Infinite Realm. They're truncating that to AIR, and that's kind of like their logo is. It just says AIR.
Okay.
And not only this.
I was confused by your printout there.
Oh.
Because you didn't delete Star Wars.
All right. You're like, wait, what Star Wars?
Star Wars Ascent Infinite Realm. What is this?
No, it's called Ascent Infinite Realm. And here's the other thing, too. Like, most debut trailers for games, they're like a minute, 2 minutes max. This is 5 minutes, folks. They debut this game with 5 minutes, and it has the content to back it up. So get those questions in the chat. You're going to have a nice little 5-minute window. I may actually run and use the bathroom. We got so much time. But here it is, the debut trailer for Ascent Infinite Realm. All right, Matt, so what do you think? You play a lot of MMOs. Yeah. I don't play them at all. And you're saying meh.
I mean, I play MMOs. I don't know. I don't play a lot of MMOs.
To play MMOs.
I play more MMOs than you have, probably. But
for sure.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it looks...
Even one is more than none.
I can tell... it's, I see the Terra pedigree there. The people there, I think, made some of that. And, it's like every fantasy trope rolled into one game. But it's a Korean MMO, so I figured it'll be a giant grind fest, and like I won't know.
It is an MMO, right?
Yeah, I won't know anyone else who's playing it, and that'll be that. It's cool. I'll keep an eye out.
I think what blew me away.
See if it makes it out. Even
yeah,
you never know.
I think what blew me away was how many different elements there are in it. There's like it seems like there's a whole other world that takes place in the air.
Right.
There's like these crazy steampunk attractions. There's hang gliding. There's these little ships you can fly in. But then you go down on the ground and there's like crazy mechs and like it seems like there's a dash of like Monster Hunter in there.
Monster Hunter, you can build. Looks like you can build houses and
and there's like crap. Yeah, I mean,
design manticores.
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
To me, it seemed different.
Sure, it's like I know how these games are built, and it's like you're gonna, that cool thing with the mechs on the ships fighting. You're gonna have to play 100 hours to even get an opportunity to think about doing that. It's just like I see the treadmill in front of that, and I'm just like, oh, it looks cool. I'd play it if it was a single player RPG probably, but like I feel like this is just gonna,
Why does PUBG not look that good?
I don't know. I'm very gun shy.
That's my big concern. It's like it's being developed by Bluehole, which...
Right. Well, I'm very gun shy also about kind of the Korean, Asian MMOs in the wake of Black Desert Online, because boy did I hate that game.
Oh, you hated it?
Yeah. We talked about that back when that came out. I just thought the performance was terrible. It had even on my like beast rig, it like didn't run right. And it's just hard and confusing to see where you need to go, what you need to do. It's all these different subsystems that don't really work together, and you just have to.
That'll kill me with MMOs. That'll just totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I like the aesthetic that they're showing in that trailer, but I guarantee you, it's not going to be all that much fun to play. So I just, unless it's a real revolution in what these games are, and it looked Twitch based enough that maybe I'll probably give it a shot.
Yeah.
But I fully expect to be so confused by like how the farming works that I just never grow a carrot again. It's like it's not a. Color me interested but skeptical.
All right. We do have a little extra time. This episode has been a little shorter than most, so we have a little extra time for questions. So let's get to them. Let's see. There was one I saw. Someone was asking me for my Call of Duty loadout. I think that was Erebus Jones. Yeah, Erebus Jones. What's your current preferred COD World War II loadout for multiplayer? So I just brought it up on the screen. Which is, again, a great advantage of having our new setup, is that we have games here and we can just suck them into our TriCaster. So here it is, I'll show you. So I generally play infantry, and I always use an assault rifle pretty much. And what I've settled on is the STG-44. And the way I discovered the STG-44 was because I was getting mopped up by other people with the STG-44. Anytime I would get killed really quickly by someone where I was like, hey, that's not fair, I would watch the kill cam, and they had the STG-44. And then I go with the closest thing they have to a red dot sight, which is actually kind of like a yellow dot sight. I use high caliber for more penetration. I think it's only for headshots, though, if I'm correct. Yeah, headshot damage. And I have almost everything unlocked for this. I actually started with the base assault rifle and then switched over to this one. I haven't completely unlocked everything for it yet. Extended mag. And then I have not even really figured out what advanced rifling does. Because I unlocked it.
It should be accuracy.
Is that what it is? Because I unlocked it for my prior gun, and I enabled it, and I couldn't really tell a difference at all.
I mean, rifling should make the bullet travel straighter.
You would think. It would make it more accurate at longer distances, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I couldn't tell a difference. But yeah, so I use a grip to keep it steady so you don't get the rise when you fire the gun. I use high caliber to make sure my headshots do more damage, and then I use a reflex sight, which is the closest thing to a red dot sight in the World War II era. So that's my loadout. And then I use a bazooka, although I've not figured out if there are, and maybe this is again because of the era, if there are any launchers that will lock on to...
No.
There aren't.
Not in the World War II.
Dude, it is so hard to shoot a plane out of the air manually firing a bazooka.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure anyone who's used a bazooka would agree with you.
And that has a huge impact on the multiplayer, though, because when people send up like their they're planes that track your movements. In most games, like I would always have a bazooka as my sidearm, and I just shoot it down immediately. And it would help me with kill streaks and things like that, and it would help your team because you're not tracked on radar. You're basically tracked on radar almost all the time now in multiplayer in this game, which is a big, big change as well from a lot of prior games. It helps you track enemies, but it also helps them track you. It also cuts down on camping, though, because you can't really just sit somewhere because people will see you on the radar and they'll just come up and kill you. So there you go. That's my loadout. I use a frag grenade for my lethal. I want the satchel charge. I just don't have it yet. So for now, I just use lethal. I wouldn't mind using the mine either. I have to get to 22 before I can get there. So anyway, there it is. That's my loadout. And I do have alternates. Like I set up, like the grease gun is the most common SMG people use. So I set up one with the grease gun, but I hardly even use it. I use it for like a couple matches, and you can see I'm only level 2 with that gun. And then I set up a shotgun because I wanted to get the dragon shells, because that's another. That's what I do with Call of Duty. Is I see what people are kicking my butt with, and then I try to use it to see if it works for me. And 9 times out of 10, I just end up going back to the assault rifle. Oh, we didn't talk about this either, though. This completely empty social hub that they have.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I did get to this where it's like with the commend a fellow soldier thing.
How do you do that?
I've never seen another soldier.
I know. So you can't. I think this is actually a huge glitch/problem with the game, is that they have not managed to get other players into the social hub without it crashing. I've never seen another human player in the social hub, and therefore I never use it. I'll go and I'll get my mail to get like my free like payroll every day or whatever. Thank you. And I'll go and like, I did the things that I thought I had to do. Like I went, and the one thing I do like about it, see that tower over there? That's a kill streak training, which is something this series has never had. It has never given you the ability to just practice using kill streaks. So what would happen to me a lot of times is when I'm playing a game, I'd get a really awesome kill streak and I'd completely fumble it because I didn't know how to use it. I cannot believe it's taken so long for this feature to be included in a Call of Duty where you can just try every kill streak and get good with them.
Do you have any supply drops?
Drop
Drop a loot box.
Oh yeah, let's drop a loot box. Looks like I got one. Let's call it in.
Meh.
So this is what people were complaining. This is what people were complaining about.
Woo!
And I can't tell you, I have so many grips.
There's a lot of grips.
I literally have like 800 grips at this point.
Nice XCOM reference, though.
Yeah. A lot of the drops, in all honesty, have been pretty much worthless to me. I don't think I've used hardly any of them.
I got one in my first, like, the things they give you when you first get. I got an epic, like, banner thing that was called, like, World War Cat or something. It's just like cats in, like, a war scenario. I was like, oh, yeah, that's my background. There you go.
But
I like the animated ones.
Yeah, I mean, generally, to me, that's good. Like, if I get stuff in the loot boxes that I don't really care about, that's a good thing. Because when there's stuff in there that you actually want, that's when things start to get dicey. So,
how about a fellow soldier?
Yeah.
One of those in a box.
How hilarious would it be if a drop box down and a dude just gets up out of it?
Good job, sir. Done.
I can finally commend somebody. All right, so anyway, there you go. There's my loadout from World War II. Vox is saying, see you online, Shane. Add me, man. We'll play. At least for a little while longer. I'll keep going for at least another week. JM Rain 99. Can you give us an update on the health of Sifted? I am checking the Patreon to see if the amount is rising near the 6,000 threshold, and have seen a dip. I up my amount to do my part. Thank you very much. I really want to see Sifted live forever. So, yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. The Patreon has dipped down. There's no doubt about it. It's gone down. It hasn't gone down below where it was when I started the 24-hour live stream. If that were to happen, that would be pretty much soul-crushing. But it has gone down literally in the last like week. The turnover actually the day before the monthly turnover, we lost like $100 a month, which wasn't that big of a deal because I figured people would. They'd be like, oh my gosh, tomorrow I have to pay, I'm going to get out. But then since then, it's continued to go down, which is disappointing.
Patreon stuff tends to fluctuate like that. I think you'll see some of that come back near the end of the month as people are sure that their budget is in place.
Yeah. And I mean, truth be told, like, other than people saying, like, one of the most common comments we got was, I don't feel like I'm getting enough content just for my tier. And so we've been trying to do that. Like the Ask Shane Anything videos are just for people at 10 or over for 3 days, and then all our patrons can get to it. So we're trying to be cognizant of that. But the other most common, and honestly, by the numbers, the most common reason for in excerpt interviews for why people have left are my money situation changed. So I can't fault somebody for leaving if they just don't have the money to contribute. So I'm totally fine with it. I'm not angry or anything. We're just kind of learning how this all works. It's been a very interesting process figuring out how Patreon works. As far as our situation is concerned, we have a lot of things that are kind of in the works behind the scenes that makes me want to continue giving it a chance, because I had a great call with Patreon. They're really excited, one, about us because we're one of the highest grossing new Patreon accounts that they have. One. Two, my history and the fact that I've worked in television and then worked in digital and worked with pretty much every revenue stream at this point on the planet and have ultimately decided to work with Patreon. They love that story. And then the other part that Patreon really loves is how we have integrated Patreon into our website, which is something no one's really done. The fact that you get rewards on Patreon and then you come to Sifted and you get something on a website and it's all tied and linked together. They were blown away by that. They were blown away by how we've combined our revenue stream on site with their revenue stream and have linked the two sites. And so they've actually requested, in addition to doing an interview with me, to do an interview with Brent about the tech side of it and how he incorporated all that stuff. So there's a couple other irons in the fire that have a possibility to bring in revenue for us. So I'm sticking it out. I think that we have a chance to really make it successful. I got to say, it felt so good to write myself a check last month. Wow. Like, it just, I can't even tell you how it felt after all the hard work that I've done. To be able to even write myself a small check from Sifted was an amazing feeling. And I owe it all to you guys. Thank you guys so much. I mean, in so many ways, Patreon has been a game changer, a life changer for me already. But the other thing that I found is that I'm working even more hours now than I did before. We did have a huge rush of people to help us curate. Everybody was really on board at first, but then they started doing it. And they started to realize it's hard. You know, you have to really know your stuff. You have to be really have to have a great attention to detail. And so we signed up a ton, and now literally there's like 3 left who are still doing it. And I just want to say here publicly on this show that Vincent, Sifted user Vincent, has turned out to be an absolute superstar. He is far and away the best curator the site has ever had, other than me. And I'm not saying that because I'm conceited or whatever. I've been doing it forever. He, in a matter of weeks, has become pretty much just as good as me at doing it in every facet. Just tagging it, writing blurbs, knowing how to rate stuff. There's so much that goes into it. Everyone's just like, you just throw stuff up. That's not how it works at all. So I just want to say publicly, in front of all the sifters and the patrons, Vincent, man, you are tearing it up. He's doing an amazing job. And look, we have a couple other guys. Burkhaw's been doing a good job. The Impartialist has been. We have people who are helping, and it's made a big difference. But the added responsibilities of Patreon have outweighed the amount of time that I was spending doing curating. So I am actually sleeping less now than I ever have before, working more hours. I literally worked, I guess when it was all said and done, I worked from 8 in the morning yesterday until 2:30 a.m. And I literally took an hour off to eat dinner and watch a little bit of the football game. And I worked the whole rest of the time. So that part of my life hasn't changed. But just getting a paycheck is like, oh my gosh, it felt so good after all the hard work. So thank you guys very much. Thanks to all our patrons. It's amazing what you guys have done. So the totals have gone down. I'm not disheartened. I'm going to keep at it. We're going to do a Patreon drive on Black Friday. And hopefully we can boost that number up a little bit. We're going to keep going. And that's all because of you guys. So thank you. Cheater Hater. Oh, hey, Cheater Hater. He's talking about curating in the chat. He wanted to say, I just curated a story from VentureBeat that talks to Vince and goes into more detail on the Respawn acquisition stuff. Probably answers a lot of the questions we had on the show. So if you guys want to read that, there you go. Justin Horman, Ubisoft seems to have bet wisely on giving the Assassin's Creed series a break for a year. Which other game series do you think would benefit greatly from a year-long break?
Madden.
Yes. Well, EA actually came out this week and said, hey, maybe there's going to be a year without a Madden, and it may turn into a games as a service. Again, something we've been talking about forever that they should do. Why don't they hire us, Matt? We can just do this consulting on the side. We can just do all this stuff for fun.
Yeah.
We've been telling them this. They need to watch GameFace. But yeah, it looks like EA maybe that.
Yeah, why don't they just watch GameFace and send us really big Patreon?
That'd be great too. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so I mean, Call of Duty probably. I mean, even though they have 3 developers making it, like, I don't know. Do we need a new one every year? Probably not. There's tons, really.
Yeah, I mean.
Or maybe there are tons.
I don't know. I mean, Ubisoft was kind of the chief offender there, and they seem to have backed off of that.
Yeah, and even did have multiple studios making Creed.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe DICE could use a step back to kind of reinvent how they do things overall, because it seems like they're just sort of plugging Star Wars and Battlefield into the same slots over and over again.
So they're cutting and pasting, basically. I mean, that oversimplifies it, obviously, but...
Right. I mean, it's still like the Starfighter thing was a really cool reinvention of that. But at the same time, it's like that really should have been how it started as.
Yeah.
But, you know...
The other thing, too, with Creed is, look, this is just the first, week and a half of sales. With that game, the next 4 or 5 months really matter.
Yeah.
And especially the next, 3 weeks when Black Friday hits and everyone has their Christmas club checks and everyone's figuring out where they're going to spend their holiday money. That's when the rubber hits the road. It's good to see. I think it sold almost double of Syndicate for the first week it was available or something, which is great.
I feel like we don't.
But I don't think it's out of the woods yet.
No, I feel like we don't need a Forza every damn year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Ding, ding, ding.
I mean, I realize Horizon and the main series are not.
Yeah, they alternate. But do I need another Forza Horizon next year? No.
Probably not.
You don't.
Especially not in a year with the... Well, I don't know. I don't want to give the crew too much credit. We don't know. We don't know what that's going to be like.
Yeah. But the Forza series in general, I think, could really use a break. And unfortunately, with that studio, that's all it does.
Yeah.
Unlike Guerrilla, I can't see Turn 10 suddenly creating an open world action RPG.
Probably not.
I don't think that's going to work out the same way.
They have an expertise that I think they've chosen.
Yeah, and I think they're called Turn 10. And I think that is holding Microsoft back, having a lot of money tied up into one studio that only creates driving games.
Yeah, it's an over-specialization problem there.
That in a genre that isn't especially popular.
But that's universal at Microsoft right now. I mean, the coalition just makes Gears of War game. Their logo is the Gears symbol.
I know,
343 makes Halo. I mean, that's what they do.
It is.
They're not agile enough.
Yeah.
You know, if suddenly there's no more appetite for that series,
what do you do?
What does that company do now?
Close them down.
Yeah.
Or you reorganize and call it something different.
EA them. You sell them to EA. That's what you do.
Yabaka PC, you guys should review PUBG and talk about it on stream. This game is very good. I think we talked about PUBG a ton on GameFace. We talked about it again today in relationship to Bluehole's new MMORPG. We have talked about PUBG exhaustively in every facet. The game itself, what it's like to play it. We've talked about the financial implications of it. We've talked about it, the competition with Fortnite. Mm-hmm. We've talked about
and
PUBG
all this before I've even played it.
Yeah. You may be new to the show, and if that's the case, welcome. Hope you're enjoying the show. Make sure you follow us so you get an alert when we go back up on stream. But yeah, we've talked about it a ton, and I'm sure we will even more on down the road. So... W. Matthew, at least in the circles I am in, I have tried Destiny 2, then played Warframe, and have said they prefer Warframe. Do you think on PC, given how much Warframe is liked, do you think Destiny 2 on PC will last?
I don't know. It's a good question. It seems to be have been pretty well received on PC.
Yeah, and they did a good job on it.
Yeah. And it's part of the Blizzard application, so it's not like you have to put something else on your computer that you didn't already have. That was smart. I don't know. I mean, is it going to be longevity there? I don't know.
I think there will be. I think it will be.
Warframe is a weird beast because I haven't played that in forever.
I played it It was free at PlayStation 4 launch.
Yeah.
And I literally played it for like 2 hours and was like, no thanks.
But it's not, you wouldn't recognize
it's completely, I know it's completely changed, yeah.
And I hadn't played it
It's kind of a model for free-to-play games
That's the game that broke my PS4.
Oh, right.
I launched PS4 because it kept freezing and crashing when I played Warframe. And I actually called Sony. I'm like, yeah, I think like there's a fan not where it's overheating. It's clearly overheating. And mainly it overheats when I play Warframe. And they actually said, can you just not play Warframe? I'm like, that is not an answer to this problem. They said that. And they said it with that sheepish kind of like, could you just not play Warframe? Like, no! The system doesn't work right.
That's not how it works. But truth be told, it could be their programming. It could not be the system's fault.
It was definitely, I mean, Digital Extremes is not what I would call the most...
Yeah. Polished.
Look, but clearly it was making it run hotter, and that was causing it to overheat and be a problem. That was not happening with Resogun.
Yeah.
And but I booted it up. There was that thing like a few weeks ago, last month, a month or two ago, where there was a price error on Steam where they sold the $140 like bundle thing for $9.99.
Yeah.
So I bought that and loaded it up for the first time in probably 3 years, and it's like there's so much stuff now.
It's a different game.
And then like a week after that, the open world update hit, and like when I'm like, it's Destiny. Like they kind of turned it into Destiny over the course of the last few years, and it's janky, but it's fun.
It's become a poster child for how to handle free-to-play games and being able to pivot. In fact...
Certainly you see Cliff mentioning it a lot.
Yeah. And I think he may be doing that same pivot very quickly. I've seen some really nasty stuff directed towards him over the last couple weeks on social media.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy, but...
For a new reason? Or just...
No, just because of...
Because Lawbreakers didn't work out too well, so we got to make him feel bad about it.
I think that's the danger when you're someone like Cliff, right? And he's never a jerk or anything. He's just a confident guy. And he always has been, and he has a little bit of a swagger to him. And the problem is, when you're that type of a person... When things go wrong, people love to go after you.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening to him right now. And he's really not, like, if you know him, he's really not that way.
No.
Like, he's a really humble guy. You'd never know he's worth, like, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever.
And
he's just an excited gamer, just like everybody else.
And, man, like, he feels the weight and the responsibility of running that company, I think. And, and the last couple times I've talked to him and asked him how it's going, the first thing he says is how much he's worried about keeping everyone's jobs going. Like his biggest worry repeatedly since the last few times I've seen him is like he's like, all these people's families are in my hands, and like that's the hardest thing I've ever had to sleep at night knowing. And I'm like, he's a good dude, and he there's not a ton of people who own big companies who think that way.
No, most of them don't.
Like, and so
most of them look at it like, well, I had to bust my butt to get here, and you're going to have to do the same. And
right.
This is just the nature of things. Some companies work out, some don't. If it doesn't work out, you got to find another job.
But he's the kind of guy who's up at night, worried about the children maybe he's never even met that have to rely on his company's success to continue to eat.
Yep.
And so I hope he figures a way to pull this game out of its nosedive, or it's a hard situation to be in, and
I don't envy him.
It sucks to watch people like put him through the ringer over it, because I don't think he intended to do.
I also think people are being overly harsh on the game too. Like, I think it's a good game. It just didn't manage to find its niche. Like, people are saying like it's a garbage game. It's like, shut up,
It just didn't catch.
It's not a garbage game.
Titanfall 2 didn't sell either, but that's a damn good game.
And Vince just sold his company for $500 million. So, but anyway, back to your original question. I honestly think Destiny 2 works better on PC. I think PC players are actually more used to playing grindy games like that. So I think Destiny 2 ultimately is going to do great.
I do know a few people who who played it on PS4 and then jumped to PC, and they all seem to think, I know, granted, a lot of them are PC gamers from of old, but like they're like, the aiming, the improvement in aiming from using mouse and keyboard makes it a better game to me.
I can see that.
And they're like, I'm going to stick with a PC version.
Yep.
So,
let's see. We'll answer a couple more. Here's from Wolfox10JC. Matt, Thor Ragnarok impressions.
I thought it was great. I mean, not like high art or anything, but it was a lot of fun, and that's really all I demand out of a Thor movie, because the last one wasn't very fun. I get like people that are kind of like upset that it was like, a laugh a minute kind of thing. It's like more jokey, and like people don't like the DC movies because they're depressing and dark and annoying, and people don't like the Marvel movies because they're light and jokey and annoying. But like I love those characters. Like it's like I don't even care that the plot lines are like the same thing, world-ending thing, blue light in the sky stuff. Like I like seeing all these characters again. I go to these movies to see everyone again. It's like going to dinner with your friends every few months,
Yeah.
And like it's just fun to see Thor and Banner interacting and all this stuff. And some of the new, Jeff Goldblum is great as Jeff Goldblum because he literally is playing space Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's if Jeff Goldblum was an intergalactic gladiator pit owner, he would be this person.
To me, this seems like the most polarizing movie in recent memory. As far as my social feeds go, like on Facebook and Twitter, you get one person who says, "Oh my gosh, amazing, go see it immediately." Next person's like, "Went to see it, didn't like it, don't get what the hype's about."
I've only seen a couple people that weren't into it.
Yeah, versus like Wonder Woman, where everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, amazing."
Well, see, I was in the other boat on Wonder Woman because I think Wonder Woman is good, but not great.
Wow, okay.
And I think the third act of Wonder Woman is a giant fumble.
Not really.
It's just super standard. Screams got reshot to hell by Studio Notes.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay off the really nice setup of Acts 1 and 2. Act 3 is really standard superhero movie fare, and I was not impressed by it.
Gotta resolve everything, gotta set it up for the sequel.
Sorta, yeah.
That's pretty much the formula.
But at the same time, it's head and shoulders above anything in the DC Extended Universe so far. So
I just love the whole concept of the movie, that it empowers women.
Yeah, and so it does.
Yeah.
And so it did, and became a hit because of that, and deserves to be. I just think next time I hope they come up with a good ending.
Yeah. I haven't seen either one of them, so I'm just going to stay out of that conversation. Let's see if we got a couple more here.
Worth seeing.
Fratterly, final thoughts on Super Mario Odyssey. Did you play it more, Matt?
A little bit. Mostly been playing Assassin's Creed. More I play of it, the more I'm like,
Oh, really?
It feels like a Kirby game to me. Like just
I mean, I can understand that.
You're throwing your hat instead of sucking somebody in your mouth,
yeah.
But like you're basically taking the ability and using that to get through the section and doing that.
No, I get that. It's because the gameplay design, the concepts are similar to Kirby.
Yeah. I mean, I don't dislike it, but it's not a priority on my mind to jump back into it. It's not setting my world on fire the way Zelda did back when Zelda just hooked me, and this one did not.
I love it. I have not changed one bit. In fact, probably part of the stream, Black Friday, will be me trying to get all the moons. I definitely am going to dedicate a big chunk of.
So many moons do you have now?
Like 500, something like that. I think there's 900 in the whole game. I have still not got to play it as much as I would like. It's like one of these things that like I pick it up and play it for like an hour here, an hour there. But the other thing I really like about it is that you can pick it up and play it for a very short period of time and get stuff out of it. And remember how we were talking about how some of the moons are like so easy to get and everything? And that's obviously the case, and it still is the case. But what I found is like I actually started playing it a little bit handheld style. While I was like watching something on TV, I just lay on the couch and play it a little bit. And every time I've ever turned the game on, I've actually accomplished something. And sometimes maybe I only have like 20 minutes, and I still accomplish something. Like I get one of those dumbass moons that's just sitting there. But what it does is it makes me realize it's worth picking it up and playing it for that short period of time. Whereas with other games, I always think sometimes it's like, oh, that's like with Zelda. I was like, man, I can't really just pick this up and play it for an hour. I may play it for an hour, but I may not accomplish anything. And with this game, like I can look at my Switch sitting there, and I'm like, oh, I have 45 minutes. I can actually do something in that amount of time. And so I found myself actually giving myself the opportunity to play it for those short bursts of time.
Because it's interesting, because to me, what that feels like is mobile game design.
It is. It totally is.
It's like that thing where, I opened it up and I pressed the thing and I harvested my energy thing and like I got a thing. I did a thing.
You're absolutely right. It is. And that's why it's funny. Like at first I had never thought about playing it in handheld mode. And then, like, one night, I'm still having problems with my Switch. I can't play with the Joy. I have to play with, like, the Pro Controller or whatever. And I was like, well, I can play it in handheld mode. I don't feel like sitting in the computer chair for another 2 hours after I just sat in it for 13 hours working today. And so I decided to go plop on the couch with it in a handheld mode. And I played it for like an hour the first time, and I got like 5 moons. And I was like, I actually like did something, put it down. And then when I came back, we went and got dinner. I came back, saw it there, and I was like, oh, what do I have now? I have an hour. I'm like, oh, I can. And I found that every time I play it, I actually do something and get something accomplished. And that has kept me coming back to it and playing it more. So I love it. I think it's great. I love the controls are sublime. The more I play it, the more I learn the nuances of the little stuff that you can do and how you can combine Mario's moves to do some amazing stuff and find some cool places. I'm all over it. Super Mario Odyssey is ace. All right, this is the last question. Fox91, is there any developer working now he would think that would wind up in a similar situation to that of Guerrilla, namely being known for making a particular game, but then making something different and finding success with it? We talked about it earlier with Respawn. I think Respawn could do it.
I think maybe not this time around, but I think Sucker Punch could do it. I don't think Sucker Punch has to make open world action games forever.
It hasn't. I mean,
Right.
It has a history of making different genres.
Right.
So absolutely, yeah. I think we've seen Insomniac do that transition from a studio that generally made one type of game and branched out to make a bunch of other ones. So it's proven it can do it. Hasn't been as successful with those other genres as it was its base genre it started with. But I think we're going to see it again.
Made some worthwhile stuff.
I mean, look, Spider-Man is unlike anything that it's made before. I mean, this is something brand new for Insomniac.
Yeah. Oh, I just had one.
I mean, the one caveat I would have is that any developer that is making, like, Telltale, that is making games that aren't especially interactive, I think those studios are kind of behind the 8 ball if they go to try to make something different. And again, I did mention that earlier, that Telltale's kind of trapped in this place where it's known for games that don't have a lot of interactivity, and therefore it's kind of pigeonholed, again, like we said about Turn 10, where you just like, where do you go now if things aren't working out?
I don't remember. Hopefully, Retro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. We don't know what they're working on.
I mean, Matt, it's starting to look like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, the rumors are bubbling up.
Well, Reggie basically said it in an interview with, I think it was Bloomberg or Time.
Is that the one where he finally admitted the Wii U was a failure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he said, we have a Donkey Kong game coming, and for Switch.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, I was like...
that's what Retro does, so...
Why?
Get ready for Arctic Firestorm.
That's so discouraging, man. I feel bad for Retro, but yeah, I mean, it looks like a Donkey Kong game's coming to Switch. I mean, it could be awesome. I mean, the last one was, but not that kind of not the kind of awesome I'm looking for from Retro Studios.
Very pretty.
Yeah.
I don't even like the Donkey Kong games. I thought Tropical Freeze was a beautiful looking game.
Gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, Retro always gets the most out of whatever hardware it works on. I don't know how, but it always manages to. So, I
mean, Metroid Prime is still a minor miracle.
Oh, man, look at what that thing is doing running on a GameCube. Yep. It's ridiculous, man. So, got a lot of love for them. I just feel like they're just getting mismanaged and misused, in all honesty, but... It is what it is. It's like they always say, if they don't like it, they can leave their jobs and go do something else, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they're in Texas, right?
Yes. Yep, Austin.
Yeah, there's other opportunities around
for sure, for sure. For anything that isn't like washed and flooded out at this point anyway. They had a terrible flooding down there. All right, so now a word from our sponsor. ExtraTurns.com. Your games deserve more. There's so many stores and sites that will charge you 10, maybe 15% or more for the privilege of selling a used game. They charge $0. ExtraTurns.com is a brand new marketplace being built from the ground up so you can sell your games, collectibles, electronics, and memorabilia. Not only will we beat our competitors' commission in every category important to you, but we will also make exchanging your used games commission-free. You get 100% of the value of your collection. Sign up for the pre-launch and share us on social media to be entered to win an SNES Classic this holiday season. ExtraTurns.com. So, I want to give you a note. I did get an email from Extra Turns this week, and one, we're working on a new copy that will be updated for the promo. And again, I want to thank them for sponsoring GameFace. But they also said, we've got some messages from people saying they had tried to go and couldn't sign up. They're aware of the issue and they're working on it. So, stay tuned. everything should be fixed very soon, and we should have an update from X Returns soon as well. So I think that's it. We actually did have a shorter episode this time.
Yeah.
Not by much.
Not dramatic. We didn't hit the 3-hour mark.
But I'll tell you what, though, like, it makes a big difference in the rest of my day. Like, literally, every 30 minutes, it gets extrapolated out like 4 or 5 times. And I'm not kidding. So when a show is like a half hour shorter, that actually means that I can go to sleep like 2 hours earlier.
Because of the post?
Because every process that we go through is almost real time. So that 30 minutes gets stacked like 4 times, and it means more sleep for me. So there you go. Maybe I'll actually get a decent amount of rest. Although probably not, because I have to be at PAX early tomorrow. Guys, don't forget, go ask questions for Pack or Factor right now. These are the last episodes for 2017. It's your last chance to get questions to him before we turn over for 2018.
Last chance to ask him what Christmas dinner will be.
Yeah, exactly. So get those in. I have to go shoot early tomorrow. Everybody, thanks for being on the stream and watching the show. GameFace is up and out.